and Moulton. You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this Monday. It is the 24th of August. Thanks so much for being with us. Hope you had a good weekend. And a belated happy birthday to the birthday boy, Mark Miller. Thanks so much for listening to Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We're streaming once again, millerandmoulton.com, and we're broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. They are free. Sign up for them. I mean, you can get a subscription and get rid of commercials and get even more access, and that'd be great if you did that. But I mean, heck, hot steaming deal. They are free. You can always chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551. That is 239-479-5551. We throw in the 239 mark because these days we are simulcasting on the Landry Football Network, a 24/7 channel exclusive to Twitch.tv. Top of the morning to you. How was your birthday weekend?
It was very good. I'm tired. But I
knew you would be. My wife even said, I guarantee you're going to have to carry Monday. Okay. Mark, I listened on Friday. She said he had a full itinerary lined up. Kids were coming over. You know, he's no spring chicken anymore. You're going to have to carry the bacon.
There's no doubt. You're going to have to carry it. You're going to have to cook it. And you're going to have to eat it.
Plus, I didn't hear from you all weekend. That's when he's neck deep in whatever he's doing. He is neck deep in it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't talk that much on the weekends anyhow, though.
No, but there was a lot of sports that goes on, and usually, there will be a, comment about something going on in the sports world. Hey, just and there was enough going on where, yesterday was actually, Mark, yesterday was a good old-fashioned terrific sports day.
A good old-fashioned terrific sports day?
Absolutely it was.
Okay.
Absolutely it was. You had a great performance on the PGA Tour. Yes, it was a rout, but you and I in particular, we love greatness. That's number one. Number two, you had a controversial Indy 500. 3, you had 2 epic NBA playoff games yesterday. I mean, you really did. If you're into it, man, did they deliver. And you also had the storylines from Boston sweeping Philadelphia, in which so much for the process because they're blowing that sucker up. I mean, and plus a full day of baseball. They're a little something.
All right.
I know you missed it. I can tell you missed it. Yep.
But I watched DJ. The golf was on.
Right.
And he won by 60. I think he just made another birdie.
This just in. Yes.
I will say, because I had friends over on Saturday night, and then we had some folks over yesterday as well. And I was with 2 people that played that golf course. And they just sat there all night Saturday going, that course is really hard. But I'm telling you, it's hard and it's long. And the 2 of them just sat there and could not understand, not just DJ, but everybody going so stinking low at this place.
Harris English was who finished second, right? Wasn't it Harris English?
I think so, yeah.
11 back. And he reminded me of Kite at the 97 Masters, who finished 12 back at Tiger, but finished solo second. And Kite walked into the press tent afterwards and said, well, I won my tournament. and Harris English was basically the same way. He goes, listen, I was 5 back at the beginning of the day, shot 4 under on the front, and was 7 down at the turn. He goes, at that moment, I'm just trying to get points for this FedEx Cup. That's all I was here for at that point.
Kevin Kisner, yesterday, in an article. I've been watching it for 25 years, Kisner said of Johnson's ability to dominate. I'm pretty accustomed to it. When he's on, I just step aside and try to add on to my bank account.
Yep.
That's a pro. That is a guy who's good. Going,
Yes.
when this guy's on, I cannot beat him. It doesn't happen.
I mean, I'm willing to guess Kisner top 30 in the world.
Oh,
Certainly top 50 in the world.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think top 30 in the world, Kevin Kisner in the world golf rankings. I'd be surprised if he's not in the top 30. Right. Well, it's like Trevino's old line about Nicholas, which he said, when the big dog's hungry, you just get out of the way and watch him eat. And certainly DJ had it going on. What was it? 60, 64, 63. Those were his last three rounds. 60, 64, 63. I love the fact, going all the way back to Friday afternoon, is Scheffler shoots 59 in the morning or midday.
Right.
DJ's 11 under through 11.
The most disappointing 60 that's ever been shot in the history of golf.
Ever. 11 under through 11 on a par 71. So he needs one birdie in his last 7 holes to shoot 59. I mean, when he's 11 under through 11, honestly, people are going, well, he may break Furyk's 58 here. I mean,
people were talking the 56 watches.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they were getting the Sammy Hagar, song ready about 55. And especially with 18 being a par 5, and you figure, well, DJ will birdie 18 if nothing else in post 59, but he pars in for 60, and people were giving him a hard time. You can just see DJ, who's always got that half incredulous look on his face to begin with, is looking around at everybody going, I shot 60. That's not easy. 60.
My career low.
6-0.
Right.
6-0.
I did, and I'm not a DJ fan. I think everybody's.
You're not.
That. But I had to laugh when I was watching the presser on Saturday after the 60, and he just says, yeah, if I had it to do over again, I'd probably hit 3-wood off the tee on 18. Yeah, okay. Whatever. But then, the next day, he's not hitting driver again. Yeah, because he hits when that thing just has that little fade going, you can't touch it.
No. But I love the fact that, you're talking to a couple of guys who are pretty good golfers, single-digit guys, and then they're going, man, that course is long, that course is hard. Meanwhile, the people who are covering the PGA Tour are like, man, we can't keep playing dog tracks like this in the FedEx Cup. For goodness sakes, could you get some courses? I mean, give me a break. I mean, they talked about this course at TPC Boston, like it was us going out to our local Muni. And a Muni not in good shape either. I mean, that's how they're like, come on, could you give these guys a test? Give me a break. I will say when 19 under finishes second, and we've had that a couple times already in this PGA Tour coronavirus edition. Anyway, but it was a spectacular sports day. I mean, it really was. Mark, first off, I can't believe, and Mike Breen is phenomenal. Mike Breen is very, very good at what he does, and he is the voice of the NBA and has been now pretty much for a decade. But, I mean, Luka has, to me, graduated to just first name basis. I mean, when he said Doncic's for the win, well, no, it's just Luka now. I mean, it honestly is. It's LeBron. It's KD, it's Steph. I mean, he's just Luka. I mean, 2 years, that's it. I mean, it's like magic. Larry, Michael. No, seriously, he's just Luka from now on. You don't have to be able to pronounce that last name. Mark, his best teammate didn't play yesterday. Luka was a game time decision with an ankle injury. 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists.
I think that's good enough for one name.
A 40-point triple-double in a playoff game against a good team.
Right.
A team that some think are going to win it. And he hits a 3 as time expires to win it in overtime by 2. So if he missed the shot, they lose. They're down 3-1. Their season's basically over. It was one of those step back, fade away, 28-foot threes. Boom! As time expired. Bob Ryan. Bob Ryan says, tweets out, I've seen all the great players of the last 60 years. He may be the most exciting.
Wow.
Bob Ryan said that.
And you were hot yesterday about the 500.
Oh, I can't
did
even
see
believe
your
you're
tweet.
willing to bring it up.
I did see your tweet. I watched the first lap. That's all I watched because it's the Indy 500, and I've not even though I'm 51 now and I probably should be watching it on television because I live in Southwest Florida, it ain't happening. And then I see that it ends under caution, and I'm surprised it was only one tweet. I'm surprised it wasn't 6.
It was a calm down tweet. I had made 2 phone calls. I had yelled in the direction of my wife for a couple of minutes. I walked around the house yelling to no one in particular. That was 20 plus minutes after it happened. That tweet was after NBC had signed off. Oh, that was calmed down.
Because I was really trying to figure out yesterday at 1:00 when I went to throw on the Golf Channel that I had NBC on, regular NBC. And they were starting pre-race coverage. And I'm like, they give 90 minutes to this thing for pregame?
Yeah, I was a little surprised how long it was, I got to be honest.
I mean, isn't 6 minutes enough for this?
The last half hour was pretty cool. Okay. I will say driver intros were pretty cool. It was. And it was a bit surreal because it's such a huge place and you're used to 300,000 to 400,000 people, and to see no one.
That was strange watching the first lap and all of the grandstands being empty when there's, like you said, over 250,000 people there every time they run this thing.
But the other thing is, if you watch just a touch of racing, Mark, it's like, we were just talking a little golf. There's long, and then there's, like when DJ and Rory and Koepka and DeChambeau rip one, and you go, holy blank. There's 300, 310 long, and then there's 360. And, we forget. I mean, NASCAR, and they got their super speedways, and they're around 200 miles an hour, and this, and even Indy at certain places. Yeah, they qualified 12 drivers, Mark, qualified over 230. 230. And there's a difference. If you watch racing a little bit, going around at around 200 miles an hour, and then when they go by at 230, it's like, holy blank. I mean, you could the speed jump through the screen early on there. It was like, wow. I mean, even Danica, who did some guest commentary in which she talked about, when you're going this fast, car feels a little light, and there are times in which you wonder, is air going to get under there? Are we sure all 4 tires are touching the ground here?
It is. I was talking to my boy yesterday, and he said to me, we just talked a little. He was excited to watch the 500, and we've been laughing because you should be betting NASCAR right now and just putting money on Hamlin and Truex every week.
And Harvick. Yeah, Hamlin, Truex, and Harvick.
Right. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. There you go.
Unless it's a road course and you take Chase Elliott. But other than that, that's how you bet it. And we started talking, and I said, could you, because he's fired up next week's Talladega where all bets are off. And I said, could you imagine when Buddy Baker was over 220 in those cars? And then you look at Indy when they're going 230.
Right.
It's amazing how fast they are.
So this race was 3.5 hours, a good 3:15. I mean, it was a long NFL game. That's just a race. Not even talking about the pre-race coverage. And yes, some of us were in from around 1:40 in the afternoon, and they didn't go green until around 2:25. Okay, so now some of us are 4 hours in. Okay, we're watching a Big 12 game. Some of us have devoted this much time to it. And unlike the way you watch sports, multiple TVs, volume up maybe on this one, down on this one, maybe the volume's all down, you got people over, you've got a young one. I'm old, okay? I'm mid-50s. I got my kid's
and
gone.
Alone. Right,
yeah,
and alone.
Right. I got my wife. Okay, and she ain't. I got the Indy 500 on. How much conversation you think is taking place between the two of us? Married for 24 years, an old fat guy has got the Indy 500 on the television.
David, your wife did the old good God a while back from your 15 years of marriage.
Right.
Had a couple over who are going on 23, married nearly as long as the two of you. And he told me that his wife looked at him the other day and just said, 22 years. How long do we have to keep doing this for?
There you go. Hey, it's negotiable. I mean, it really is day to day. I mean, aren't we all?
Right. So at best, it's a roommate.
Yeah. Right. Oh my good. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. And yesterday for sure. For sure yesterday. I mean, roommates at best. I mean, she just kept walking around and kept making announcements. I'm going to work out at 4:00. I get the TV then, and then the workout got moved back to 4:30 and this, that, and the other thing. She just kept making pronouncements. This is when I'm going to take the TV. Okay, fine.
But the race didn't end until after 5:00.
Yeah, a race ended at like 5:45. I just kept looking right at her and going, I can go to another room. Don't take this out on me. Okay. I did commandeer the room and the TV and the clicker first. I did. It doesn't mean you can't have it. Don't hold it out on me. So anyway, Mark, we watched Scott Dixon go to the lead. He's the fastest one. Had race strategy, this, that, and the other thing. Wrecks at certain times, and now instead of pitting 3 times, you only have to pit twice. And then there's a wreck, and maybe some people can go and only have to pit one more time. We got it all working, Mark. I'm in. I got the guys I want to win. I want an Andretti to win, for goodness sakes. He was on the pole. He raced like crap, finished like 13th. Okay, fine. My next favorite guy was Graham Rahal. He's charging on the outside, Mark. He's in 3rd. He's about a second out of the lead. We got Sato. He's a sitting duck. He's in the lead. It's not where you want to be down the stretch at Indy. It's kind of like Daytona. You don't want to have the lead heading into the final lap of the Daytona 500. They're going to gang up on you. They're going to get you. All right, and you got Dixon, you got Rahal. Did I say I got 4 hours invested in this?
Certainly seems that way.
5 laps to go. 5. Not 1, not 2. Okay? Not wanting to sound like the Heat after they signed LeBron, but 5 laps to go. There's a wreck. Sato's teammate wrecks. Now, Mark, I got to say, he took out, all right, the beginning of pit road, the barrier, he took out the front of that. He just, blew it up. All right. They probably have an hour's worth of repairs. I'm not kidding. But as soon as it happened, all the commentators said, well, there's 5 laps to go. They're going to red flag this race. And everyone agreed. And a lap goes by. And then another lap goes by. I hear over the PA the guy announce a red flag. They go to commercial. A minute into the commercial, they break away from the commercial because now there's 2 laps left and they go, well, this thing's going to end under caution. End under caution? It's the Indy 500. The wreck happened with 5 laps to go. What are you talking about? Red flag, the flipping race. Okay. Have your local news at 6, your network news at 6:30. Take the hour, repair the damn thing, and at 7:00, start them back up. You don't have hockey till 8. There's no one in the stands to inconvenience. This is your premier race. Did I mention it's the Indy 500? Do you think, Mark, seriously, you gearhead, you've become a gearhead this year with NASCAR. Do you think if there's a wreck, a big one, with 5 laps to go in the Daytona 500, that NASCAR goes, well, we're just going to roll these last 5 laps out. That's it. It's over.
NASCAR wouldn't. You've already mentioned it. NASCAR has a rule in place that won't happen. Indy doesn't. It's not the first time that they've ended this race in caution. Excuse me there. Did it back in the early part of the last decade, back-to-back years. So, is it right? No, but they don't have any rule in that says that that's not what, we don't have a NASCAR rule. Should they get one? Probably.
Very disappointing. This is not the road course in St. Pete. Okay. I mean, honestly, people don't even know. There are people can't name another race on this series. This is it. I mean, I was laughing at the announcer down the stretch. Well, to win Indy is double points. Nobody cares about the Indy Points Championship. It's like the FedEx Cup in golf. I'm sorry. Nobody cares about it.
No,
it's
they
a
don't.
big cash grab. The golfers don't care. They're faking it. They're faking it because FedEx is putting $15 million front and center for them. They're faking it. They're lying all year. They don't care about this.
Well, I disagree with you only slightly, because there's not one of them that doesn't enjoy the $10 million for winning it. They get very excited about the money that they get from the FedEx Cup, but it's
true. There's about 12 of them near the end of the year who go, wow, I have a chance to win this godforsaken thing. Okay, right. I guess I'll play these last 2 weeks.
Right. I'm going to play hard because that's a big check.
Wow. Really? I could win how much? Oh, okay. Glad I played this year. It's still stupid.
That is the only reason that they care, David.
It's still stupid, but I'll cash this check. Oh, that's a hell of a check, come to think of it. Yeah. Red flag the flipping race. All right. Announce we're coming back at 7 o'clock. Get your local news in, your national news in. Come back at 7. Finish the damn race. It's the Indy 500. You've been on the air since 1 o'clock. There's no fans in the stands. You're inconveniencing no one.
I feel really badly, David, that I didn't come upstairs at all last night. But Bill felt much the way you did. And David, he might not have Twitter, might not have Facebook, may not have anybody to talk to like you do after a race. But at 5:45, he sent this text. What a letdown for the Indy 500. Several exclamation points.
There you go,
Bill. I'm an Indiana boy who went to Ball State in 82 and would go down for practice, qualifying, and the race year after year. I am so disappointed in how they finished the race. Planned my day around this race. Now, sorry I watched.
Yep.
Bill,
there you go.
5 minutes later. Sorry to text you on a Sunday night, but I am really disappointed.
And another thing. Right. There you go, Bill. Let it loose.
Golf, done deal. My only hope is for a good NASCAR finish. I mean, his Sunday was ruined, David, much like yours.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. 5 laps to go. Yeah, yes, I know. An hour's worth of repairs. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, we'll sit and wait. By the way, all the drivers would wait. They're not going anywhere. You still got sunlight. I mean, you still would have finished the Indy 500 before DJ finished the golf tournament, for goodness sakes. DJ's up by 10. They didn't call that thing. Oh. And remember, Mark, this is the Indy 500 in Southwest Florida. There were a few people down here who watched this. I didn't want to bring it up. But you brought it up. So what I'm doing now, I walk out because I've been relegated to the bedroom because the wife said enough. I got to work out, and I get the TV and get at me.
Good
right
for her.
So I'm fine. No, hey, I'm fine. I'm in my room. The door's closed. It's great. I'll watch everything here, to be honest with you. As you said, we're roommates. I mean, does it make any difference where I watch my sports? Okay. But then this happens. I call Casio. All right. I'm yelling at him for 10 minutes. All right.
Because he's the biggest Indy fan of the three of us.
Exactly.
His father worked in the pits at Indy, was a tire changer, if I'm not mistaken, for Gordon Johncock. So his father loved Indy. Therefore, John has that same passion, would get very angry with me when I would make fun of Jim Neighbors in that song.
Yes. And I mean, John gets excited for Indy qualifying. Actually, he gets excited for practice.
Right.
He would watch the whole month of May. John would watch all of it. For as excited as NASCAR fan gets about Daytona, that's John on steroids for Indy. Yep. I called John. John's like, yeah, I'm done with this. I don't know if I can watch this anymore. I'm like, John, this is your favorite sporting event in the world. He goes, yeah, it just took the life out of me. I was so excited for this my whole day. You know, he's about to have a second kid.
Right. Well, this is way more important than the second child. I mean, as they say, you got to be there for the first one. The second one, it's optional.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think John, turned to his wife and said, listen, if you go into labor now, I don't know. I can call my brother. He can take you. The race should be over by 6. I can get there by 6:30. I mean, that's where this ranks. All right. Now, if it was his first child, he would have gone straight to the hospital. But for
number 2,
for a second child, I'll be there by 6:30. If you could hold out till then, I'd really appreciate it.
Quick update for everybody. As well, the starting 5 on the other side. We have Bud Elliott on the show today. We'll talk some football. But after reading Bill's text, I didn't know if Bill would be up for the beginning of the show. Who knew? He did just let me know that set my alarm for 6 just to hear David go crazy.
There you go.
Making me feel better. Thanks, Bill. No, Bill. Thank you. And thanks for listening to Miller and Moulton, where David had an out-of-body experience before 6:30 a.m. over the Indianapolis 500.
5 laps to go. 5. 12.5 miles. Unbelievable.
Under caution. We'll get that update and plenty more on the starting 5. That's next, Miller and Moulton, streaming live at millerandmoulton.com. And you can watch us on twitch.tv.
Swinging a foul ball. To catch a foul ball. Somebody made a good catch down there.
Wait, John has kids? What did I miss? One and another on the way.
Except this year, as balls fly into empty seats. And a foul. You have 0 chance.
Yes, Johnny Mac, I am yelling about racing. 4 effing hours. 4 hours.
Something special. Major League.
That race been going on for about 3:15.
Oh, good God.
Radio.
Oh, that's Florida. They're not married.
No, actually, they're not. But
no, it's Florida, man.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. She's a very, very pretty lady.
Yeah.
I mean, he outkicked. Moulton and I outkicked our coverage, but we're reasonably decent-looking guys, and we're in much better shape when we met our wives. John, completely outkicked his coverage.
Personally fit arch supports are designed to help alleviate, even eliminate.
Well, first off, think about it. John's not as angry, Yeah, foot fan. I've seen her picture. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, trust me. Yeah. First time I met her, I walked up to her and said, "Hey, it's very nice to meet you. Did you lose a bet?"
You are an asshole.
I did. I go, "You sure?" And then I said, "Are you sure about this?" I go, because we know them better than you do at this stage. They were like moving in together. I go, "Are you sure?" I know them better than you do. Are you sure about this? It's not too late. You're still young enough. Yep. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one. Tell you what, it must be slim pickings out there for the ladies.
It is.
You think about all the guys who are out kicking their coverage. It's just, man. Tell you, so if you're a guy, your patience, really, it's a virtue. I mean, you just, wait and wait and wait. And next thing you know, you just see what falls in your lap. You're like, my goodness.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year.
My liver hurts.
And out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts at $99.
See, I didn't know I thought you might go hard Friday and Saturday with that, but not go hard Sunday, but that it would just be a long day, because I thought you said you had the twins coming over and all that.
Oh, yeah, we had we have 2 sets of twins and 2 more kids. The other one set of twins didn't show. We were supposed to have 3 sets of twins, but we had.
That's unbelievable. I don't know enough people who have. I don't know 3 people who have twins, if you know what I mean. 3 couples. That's remarkable.
In this new world, there's a lot more of them, David. And the one set, and we've become pretty good friends with their parents, and they are wild. I mean, they are
Wild,
full
huh?
boogie. Oh, man. And it's so funny because they've got another one, and she's 3, and she just loves me. Simone. Everybody calls her Simi. I call her Moni Moni because of the song. And she comes running into the house. I mean, how many 3-year-olds come running in? And Mark, and runs and jumps on me. I see this kid once a month, maybe, and she thinks like I'm more of an uncle than her uncles. But so yeah, we had a bunch of kids, and well, what happens up happening with this group of people is that we have a few drinks. Friday I drove, so we had a bottle of wine with dinner. Went and had a great dinner, maybe the best meal I've had in Lee County ever.
Come on now, you said that about a place like a month ago, though.
And this was better.
Wow,
this was better.
Remember, you've been here 22 years now.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I don't go to Lee County to eat that much.
You live in Lee County. – 28 minutes before the hour. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? We are fired up. At least I am.
Yep. At least he is.
Miller and Moulton.
I agree. David's fired up this morning, everybody.
I am. You listen, I didn't think you'd go there right out of the chute. And I didn't mean the short shoot. Hello. Is this on? Ha ha. Streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton Twitch TV channel. We're also simulcasting on the Landry Football Network, or at least we were until my rant last segment about the Indy 500. We'll see whether or not they still keep us on their 24/7 football channel, the Landry Football Network on twitch.tv. Time now for
the starting five big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and foxsportsfm.com.
a great one between the Mavs and the Clippers. It goes overtime. Luka hits the game-winning fadeaway 3 as time expires. Dallas evens up their series with the Clippers, 135-133 in overtime. Luka with 43 points, 17 rebounds, and 13 assists. Needless to say, carrying the Mavs to a win in which Porzingis doesn't play because of knee soreness. Meanwhile, Utah gets 51 from Donovan Mitchell. They needed all of them because Jamal Murray had 50 for the Nuggets. Utah 129, Denver 127. Utah leads that series 3-1. And remember, they had a lead late in game 1 and let it get away and lost in overtime. That series could be over, and that's a surprise. Boston swept the Sixers 110-106. And there'll be a new coach in Philly, and Ben Simmons will probably get traded. And, so much for the process. This will be the franchise that when people – because they tanked on purpose, and they collected high lottery picks, and they did so on purpose. And they got Embiid and Simmons out of the deal. They also drafted Okafor, I think it was, from Duke, who didn't work out at all. So they went 2 for 3 on their top 3 choices. And they never got past the second round of the playoffs. And now they're going to blow it up. Toronto swept Brooklyn. Our Toronto Raptors, Mark. Southwest Florida's Toronto Raptors swept Brooklyn 150. That's right, 150 to 122. That's in regulation, folks. 150. NHL last night, I will say, game 1, if we can get 6 more that look just like it, it'll be a really good series. Bruins 3-2 over the Lightning. Vegas shut out Vancouver 5-0. But Boston, Tampa Bay, and Mark, you and I forgot this, or at least if we remembered it, we didn't say it. It was, I think, the night before the NHL stopped. These two teams played in Boston, and they played an old school hockey game. Bunch of fights, really nasty. And then like 48 hours later, the league stopped. And, well, they picked up where they left off last night. I mean, they didn't fight.
No, but, you know, fights are in the first round or in the second round. If there is a 4-goal lead, you'll see fights. You won't see them otherwise. But it was nasty. This is going to be a terrific series. It looks like we might get a decent one out of Dallas and Colorado as well. Vegas is playing really well right now.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I don't know if you heard, but Takuma Sato won the Indy 500. It's his second win in the last 4 years. There was a wreck with 5 laps to go, and instead of red flagging the race, they decided, no, we'll just end this thing under caution. Scott Dixon was second for the third time. All 3 times, the race finished under caution. Graham Rahal finished third. Sato and Rahal are teammates. Mark, I believe you mentioned last segment you were talking to your kid about, hey, we should be betting NASCAR, and we should either bet Denny Hamlin or Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
Well, they had a doubleheader at Dover this weekend, Mark.
Who won?
On Saturday, it was Denny Hamlin, which meant you should have bet the ranch on Kevin Harvick on Sunday. And guess who won yesterday?
Kevin Harvick.
Kevin Harvick. Yeah. So Hamlin and Harvick, your winners this weekend at Dover. Ross Chastain, for the record on the Xfinity Series, finished third on Saturday and second yesterday.
Really? 2 more top 5s?
Yes. Now, he had the horrible finish on the road course in Daytona when his transmission blew. He's only had 2 races this year where he hasn't finished in the top 9. He is fourth in the standings. Had a chance to win yesterday. Actually won us the first stage of the race. Was closing fast, Mark. Was within a second of the leader. And the leader got through the lap traffic, and the lap traffic wouldn't get out of the way for Ross. And by the time he got through the lap traffic, he was, too far back and couldn't chase. Dustin Johnson won the Northern Trust by 11. 30 under par. 30 under par. It's his 22nd win all time. I think he's, one behind Gary Player? I mean, he's one behind Player, 2 behind Johnny Miller, or tied with Gary Player, 1 behind Miller. I think it's 1 behind Player, 2 behind Miller. Now think about that. Say that out loud.
How many majors?
He's got 1. Well, Johnny Miller only had 2.
I understand that.
But DJ, with just the U.S. Open back in 2016 at Oakmont, he says he finally feels like he's back to how he felt in the spring of 2017. Remember, he had won 3 tournaments in a row heading into the 2017 Masters, fell down a flight of steps a couple days before the Masters, hurt his back, and even though he's won since, and he's finished second in like 4 majors, actually, but he has not won a major since, he says he now feels the way he did in the spring of 2017. Worth mentioning, they did have the Women's British Open over the weekend. They had it at Troon. Only 4 golfers finished under par, and the 306th ranked golfer in the world, Sophia Popov, won it. So basically a Ben Curtis type win on the LPGA Tour at the British Open. Baseball, Marlins lost to the Nats 9-3. They're 11-11 on the season. They've lost 7 of their last 9. The Rays are in first by a game over the idle Yankees. They beat the Rays beat the Jays yesterday, I should say, 5-4. Twins over the Royals by the same score. Orioles over the Red Sox by that same score of 5-4. Detroit 7-4 over Cleveland. Cubs over the White Sox 2-1. And Mark, break up the San Diego Padres. They swept the Astros, who came in having won 8 in a row, and San Diego said, get out of here. 5-3 was the final. Machado, a homer in the late innings to win it. Phillies over the Braves, 5-4. Only 6 teams above 500 in the National League, Mark. Remember, 8 are going to make the playoffs.
Right.
We only have 6 over 500 right now. Pirates, worst team in all of baseball at 7-17. The Angels and Red Sox are tied for worst teams in the American League. Think about that. Angels and Red Sox. A couple of big markets there. A couple of high payrolls. They're both 9-20. I don't know how many people saw this story yesterday with everything else that was going on in sports. There were 77 false positive COVID tests in the NFL over the weekend, all originating from the same lab in New Jersey. As people pointed out, if this were to happen, because apparently the false positives came about on Friday, Saturday, and then everybody got, samples retested and the whole deal. And it was like, oops, never mind. Well, needless to say, if something like this were to happen during the season, I mean, this would cause chaos to a Sunday's worth of games in the NFL. And then all of a sudden they turn around Sunday night, Monday, and go, "Oh, our bad. I'm sorry.
Never mind.
Never mind." So that's worth paying attention to. The Ravens yesterday released safety Earl Thomas. He apparently got into a fight with a teammate on Friday. They sent him home for Saturday. He didn't behave on Saturday. And so apparently there was a bit of a uprising. A few of the veterans went to John Harbaugh and said, "Yeah, we hate this guy. Get rid of him." And so the Ravens bit the bullet and they cut him.
Wow.
Just 1 year into a 4-year, $55 million contract. That 1 year will cost the Ravens $22 million. They're going to try to get out of some of this contract, conduct detrimental, all that sort of thing. But all it will do is give them salary cap relief for this year. It's just a matter of, do they take a $15 million hit this year, or will it be $5 million this year and 10 next? Okay, but it's anyway. Earl Thomas, remember, when he was with Seattle, really wanted to go to Dallas, and the Cowboys have a need at safety. So we'll see if the Cowboys sign Earl Thomas. Mark, one would think, isn't Eric Reed still unemployed?
As far as I know.
Yeah, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, don't you think you got to call Eric Reed?
Hey, they've been calling everybody. They brought Dak in, for crying out loud, for a workout. Or, I mean, Dad's rather, for a workout. So I would be on the phone getting anybody in.
And at 17 minutes before the hour, that mark is
The starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5.
Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Starting 5 today brought to you by the Lizard Lounge in Naples. David?
I don't remember the Lizard Lounge.
No, you don't. It might even predate you. It's an older place, and it was seedy, and it was a dive.
Oh man! So I would have felt.
David, there's a part of mid 80s through the late 90s Naples that you would have enjoyed before the money really started coming.
Well, I like the Captain's Cabin.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There was a lot more of that before, more gates started coming in, if you know.
Right. Before the whole,
they took a lot of these down for gates, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm well aware. Right. Places David, where I'm not allowed.
Right. David, by the way, we got another text. People are very into your passion today, but this person does kind of slap your passion down a little bit and says, David, Indy cares about your feelings for the race the same as Kevin Warren cares about mine for the Big Ten.
Yes, you're right, sir. You are right. They do not give a damn. Do not give a damn. Speaking of which, I do think there is a story that emerged yesterday, which, if you think about it for 3 seconds, is a no blank. All right, Mark, we've said a lot of things over these last 5 months during the pandemic, but one of the things we said early on is, ultimately, this is going to get to the president's desk. This is not going to be a coaches and ADs decision, because this just in, all the coaches and ADs are going to want to play. All right. And the presidents are going to be like, yeah, this is above your pay grade. Okay. If we say you're playing, you're play, but this is our call. Commissioners and university presidents are going to make this call. And so it came out yesterday that all 14 ADs in the Big Ten were in favor of playing. Yeah, of course they are. They're all staring at $100+ million in lost revenue. Of course they want to play. I mean, duh. Have you heard of a single AD? One. Has anybody heard of an AD who didn't want to play football this year? Publicly.
I mean, go back to the ASUN tournament for the women. Ken Kavanaugh, up until like the moment before tip, was ready to play that game.
Right. Yeah. The ASUN pulled the on the season Friday night.
PM of the Everblades. No,
right.
Is Disney World open?
Yes.
You know, I mean, these were, and I'm not knocking these two people, but this is our backyard. These are the two people that are responsible for the franchises that we spend a lot of time watching. They didn't want to stop? Of course not.
And so of course they wanted to play. Yes. So 14-0. Yeah, you know what the story would be if it was 13-1? That would be a story. 14-0. I'm sorry, that's a no kidding. But if you want to keep picking on Warren and the presidents, but yeah, the presidents, at least 8 of them, all right, took the advice of their ADs and said, yeah, we get it. You want to play. We'll let you know whether you're playing. All right, just stay in your lane.
We'll try to come up with a poll question. We'll give you the answer from our weekend poll question. And we still got Bud Elliott coming up in about 45 minutes, right?
And Vinny Serrato at 8:30.
There you go.
Yeah, we're talking plenty of football. I mean, Mark, we're on the Landry Football Network. We got to talk football here.
And I've got leftover cake that I'm going to have pretty soon, right in front of David.
What kind?
Multiple.
What?
People brought over the nothing bundt cakes, the little minis that are delicious, and the wife got me a Publix cake, so I could go a couple different directions with cake today.
People brought over cake?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
They must like you,
right? And booze.
Well, I mean,
no, but not to drink, to leave for me. Bourbon left for me. Several bottles.
The cake shows they care about you, with all due respect. I mean, we all pick up booze. We pick up booze for people we don't even like, and we're going over their house, and we're like, hey, here you go, a little something for the effort. I mean, don't take it the wrong way. The cake, they care.
Miller, Moulton, and cake. Thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio, where we stream at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Aaron Rodgers, he was speaking to Kyle Brandt on his podcast. He talked about the Packers drafting his successor, Jordan Love.
Was I bummed out? Of course.
Johnny Mac,
quarterback.
Although
I don't know. I'm sure some ADs probably have it in their
agent
contracts where they get bonuses. I mean, I know ADs who get bonuses for academic, achievements. So, yeah, I mean, ADs get bonuses, but they also get $100 million in revenue that now they're not going to get.
It's about ductwork and addicts.
Of course they want to play.
Hot air. These commercials are sales scams, and the design is here.
Mark, I think the question no one's talking about, if you're Fox, okay, and the Big Ten's going to go forward with this spring football, if I'm Fox, I don't, whatever my going rate is, I'm going to be like, oh, you ain't getting that from me. You got to be kidding me. Spring football? I didn't sign up for this.
North American technician.
I know what my rating's going to be. We put Big Ten football on in the fall.
I got you. But for what you are the biggest proponent of spring football on this planet. If the Big Ten is now, when are they starting? When are they, February? March? April? I mean, do we have a date?
No, they haven't announced a date.
Okay.
There are a couple different plans.
I know you keep saying February. That's not really spring. So I'm just assuming, and I could be wrong, March, April, May.
I don't think they want to play into May.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, if it's spring.
No, they're calling it spring football, but yes, it will start in the winter. It'll be winter/spring football. They are calling it spring.
Right, but I mean, you think they're starting in February?
I think they have to. If they want to play 10 games, I think they need to be done by late April. So that's mid-February to late April is 10 weeks.
And I think it's March, April, May. I've just kind of, you might be right. I've just had in my head that it's going to be March, April, May.
See, and I don't think they want to go that deep and get too close to the next season. I think they want kids to have a break.
When does spring football end? Normal spring football. When are the spring games?
It depends on the school, but spring football is usually March and April.
Right.
Across the nation, America is moving forward, finding our footing, getting back on our feet. Life continues to open up. Businesses are getting back.
If you started March 6th, you'd be done May 8th with 10 games.
That's with no bye weeks and no COVID problems. Plus, are they going to play Big Ten championship game? I mean,
it's a great question. Are they going to have a Rose Bowl? And
no.
They've already said no Pac-10.
No. Well, the Rose Bowl's the semifinal.
Oh, that's right.
And the Bill Hancock and the playoff committee are like, we're having a playoff.
quality of people's lives, 2 feet at a time.
Is foot pain making your life miserable? Call 552.
Here's my question. If let's just say they're still not allowing fans at games,
Automation is the answer.
do you force 2 teams to travel all the way to Pasadena?
The on-site evaluation.
Or can you just,
For over 40 years.
take a look at where everybody is and pick a site?
For award-winning full service, repair,
Atlanta, Charlotte,
diagnostic,
Dallas, Miami. I mean, honestly, do you have to?
If there's no fans, but I think they're banking on fans by the time they have the semifinals.
They probably are.
All right. We need a question. You got one?
You don't want my question.
What's your question?
They've stopped the effing race. But I don't think enough people would care.
If we can have one of the answers be what race?
Well, it works for me. Yes, no, what race?
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
8 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. Also simulcast on the Landry Football Network, an exclusive 24/7 channel to Twitch.tv. You can always chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line at 479-5551, 239-479-5551.
Poll question over the weekend was about tipping at takeout.
Yes.
And 10% ended up being the winner, just edged out 15%. But 12.7% of you need to be taught a lesson or two about how to do takeout. Because if you're not tipping at all for takeout, I can understand there are some places where you just go to the counter. But if you have to go to the bar and the bartender is doing it, it means the bartender had to work to put that in the, even if she just had to go from box to bag, there was some work. She had to get a condiment for you, or he. You got to give him a little something for the effort. I don't know what to tell you.
Thank you.
Get your game up.
Thank you. So, yes, what's the proper tip for takeout? 35% of you said 10%, 31% of you said 15%, 21% of you said 20+%, but 13% of you said zip, zilch, nada. Ouch. That hurt. That hurt. Good response, though, to the poll question. We appreciate that. All our poll questions can be found at either millerandmoulton.com, or you can vote via Twitter at that Mark Miller or at the David Moulton.
David still wanting to keep the Indy 500 front and center for our poll question because are you going to get over this today? When will you get over?
Oh, yeah. No. I'll get over it.
Is this your therapy for the Indy 500? Being able to yell about it a little this morning?
Well, my wife, ironically, my wife's a therapist. So,
yeah, but she doesn't even like to talk to you after these races.
Right. Well, and she did look at me kind of like, really? I thought I'd have the weekend off, and now I have to do this with you? Really? What are you getting all bent out of shape about? So I'll probably be over by the afternoon, unless, of course, we do a poll question on it, and basically I'm left alone, in which everybody goes, "You're an idiot."
Well, I think most would agree with you that the race should have been red flagged. And I do know that we have a very large Indy 500 audience down here,
right?
From a television standpoint. We watch. We always have. With that being said, the number that it does is still not a significant number.
You're going significant, kind of like Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann talking to Bill Bradley. You know, have you spoke to a large audience before? You know, so you're
no, but I mean, what will it's not like it does a 9 in this market.
Oh, no. It
does a 3 or a 4.
Right. It'll do it like a 4 rating. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even do a good college football game, or a bad college football game rating. That's the only reason.
Right.
Even as good as the numbers are in this market, it still means 680 people are watching it.
A few more than that, but I get your drift. The good news, at least it was on NBC. The bad news, it was in August. I mean, last week on a few occasions, I felt it was a public service announcement to remind everybody, hey, it's the Indy 500s this weekend. Just letting you know. I feel as if in 2 weeks, Mark, we're going to have to say to people, just to let you know, over Labor Day weekend, it's the Derby. Hello? It's the Derby.
The Masters is coming up right before you get your Thanksgiving turkey.
Right. I feel as if we're still going to have a little public service announcements.
Totally.
For the rest of this sports year.
100%.
So to me, it's either Indy 500 or Luca.
Well, I was thinking along the lines of who had the better performance this weekend, Luca or DJ?
Ooh, wow.
That's kind of where my head was at.
I like it.
As you mentioned, there were some terrific, you could throw Donovan Mitchell in there as well for that matter. I mean, there was some stupendous performances over the course of the weekend, and we like to focus on greatness, David. More positive, less negativity.
Whatever.
Miller and Moulton. Stay positive with us. Fox Sports Radio.
Whatever. If you say so. I like that poll question. That's better. Luca or DJ. I like that.
Parker frames, and they'll send them to your house for free. Try them on, take your time, get some opinions, see which ones you like. To get started, just text.
Who had the better performance? Who was more impressive this weekend?
More impressive.
It's super easy and it's totally free. If you find a winner, Warby Parker will send you a fresh pair outfitted with your prescription. Their high-quality glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. That's right, including the prescription lenses. There's no need to travel to an optical store. With Warby Parker, you can shop for glasses anytime, anywhere. Try 5 frames for free today with Warby Parker. Text COMFORT to 64,000 to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. Text COMFORT to 64,000 to get started for free.
Who was more impressive this weekend, Luka Doncic, Dustin Johnson? You good with that?
Do you feel as if we don't have rooms to put stats or anything, do we?
I guess I could. Give me Luka's numbers.
43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists. And DJ was minus 30, won by 11.
Sent. Done. Up.
Owner of VR Marno Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding
The Hamiltonian was this weekend?
Windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
Yeah, you'd have really, David, this restaurant, you'd have been more uncomfortable than you were at the restaurant in New Orleans. It was smaller, about the size of a living room.
Really?
Yeah.
Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health, C4MH.com. There's only one way to wake up in the morning. How the heck are you? Yep, That's it. Miller
I drove, which made me happier. I didn't let anybody else behind the wheel of the car.
and Moulton.
Look at you, the man of the house.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
As we approach a couple minutes past the hour, top of the morning, everybody. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming, millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels, and simulcasting on the Landry Football Network, a brand new 24/7 channel, also on Twitch.tv. You can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 479-5551. That is 239-479-5551.
We got ourselves a poll question. I don't know how good it is, but I mean, we've got one. And it centers around maybe the two best performers of the weekend. Luka Doncic had the monster game, 43, 17, and 13 in their win yesterday. DJ simply was 30 under and won by 11.
Right. Went 60, 64, 63 his last three rounds. 60, 64, 63 on a par 71 course. Yeah. Yeah. Shot 254. 254 for 4 rounds. 254.
So who was more impressive this weekend, Luka or DJ? That is our poll question.
Mark, you were busy this weekend. It was your birthday, and you had a lot going on. You had stuff lined up all 3 days. People coming over. Hell, apparently you got multiple cakes. Multiple. Unbelievable, by the way. That's impressive.
Had to give cake away. We had so much cake.
You're an adult, too. This isn't a kid. Okay, that is impressive. All right, people like you.
You tell people to show up with nothing, and they still bring things.
Man, no, I mean, I think it's because your wife's so nice, and she's one of those that calls everyone and says thank you notes to everybody, and I mean, it basically
she doesn't just do that. She sends people actual birthday cards. She has about 30 people that get birthday cards at least.
Listen,
and I'm not talking relatives. I'm like,
no.
And I'm surprised she doesn't know like your wife's birthday, because when she found out on Facebook or whatever, it's one of those things. She'll then write it down and put it in the phone so she knows to get the cards out.
I can only go here because my grandmother is no longer with us. But my grandmother used to love the Hallmark store. And Barnes and Noble and the Hallmark stores were like near one another, and she would go out and about, and she would, just buy a book a week, and would also venture once a week into the Hallmark store. And she's one of those that would just collect cards, so that she always had a card.
Right.
And then, it would be one of those, hey, it's so-and-so's birthday. And she'd be like, oh, and she'd go over to her desk, and she's got 212 cards from which to choose from. And then she would send, your wife a birthday card, and everybody would be like, oh my goodness, she's so thoughtful. Well, yeah, she's got cards from the Carter administration, but yes, okay. So your wife, all right, I mean, and I'm not, saying your wife is old, but your wife reminds me of my grandmother, because your wife, I am convinced, has a place in the house where she's got right now a minimum of 30 cards.
I doubt that many, but I will tell you this, David. The only reason she doesn't have that many is that the Corkscrew and 41 Hallmark store went out of business in the last year. And she was distraught. I'm not joking. Like, when you brought up the Hallmark thing, like, you don't know how close to reality you are, sir. Yep. Because she came home one day and she's like, the Hallmark store closed. I'm like, yeah, they announced it a while ago. But the Hallmark store closed. Like, who gives a crap?
Mark, that's the equivalent to you if the neighborhood liquor store went out of business.
Been that up since the Purple Ringer changed management.
239-479-5551 is how you can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. I know that you were, not paying as close attention this weekend to the sports scene as you normally would. Did you catch the trash talk that went on between Montrezl Harrell and Luka in Game 3 between the Mavs and the Clippers?
I'm aware. Was I, watching? But yes.
Well, so you were aware.
Yes.
Okay. And so because Fran Fraschilla sent out a tweet last night, and under normal circumstances, this is the type of tweet that might get you in a little hot water with your network television bosses. And I mean in every other instance but the last 48 hours. I think this tweet would get you in trouble with your network TV bosses. Fran Fraschilla last night, and I will apologize for those of you that may be offended by a word or two in this tweet. But Fran Fraschilla tweets out, that is one badass, bitch-ass white boy right there. If you don't know the context of that tweet, you'll be like, whoa, what's gotten in it? Put the booze down. What's gotten into you? Hey now, take it easy. You can't call him that.
Only we can call him that.
Well, that's what Montrezl Harrell, in some trash talking with Luka during Game 3, called Luka. He called him a, quote, "You're just a bitch-ass white boy," during the trash talking on the court when they had to be separated. It was pretty clear. We could all read lips. That is exactly what he called him. We all knew it. Now, before Game 4, Montrez made sure to make his way over during warm-ups. He kind of got to midcourt, yelled over to Luka. Luka came over. Montrez apologized to him, and it looked very sincere. He pulled him close. He talked in his ear. Luka a couple times even, was, I'm going to get back in line, and Montrez wouldn't let him go. Just wanted, hey, I was out of line. And basically, the cameras caught me, and I was out of line. All right, blah, blah, blah. And Luka was like, it's all good. It's all good. So then Luka goes for 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, without his trusted sidekick Porzingis even, who missed the game with knee soreness, hits the game-winning 3 as time expires to win by 2. So, needless, and I believe there are already companies out there that are making, and once again, all right, I apologize for the language if it bothers you, okay, but there are people who are already making bitch-ass white boy t-shirts.
Interesting tweet from Fran Fraschilla.
Yes. What one that if you don't know the context, you go, whoa, what's gotten into Fran? Put the brown liquor down. Take it easy. Switch to Sprite. Hey now.
I will be curious at some point today when we start getting a few more TV ratings out, because the basketball was very good, as you mentioned, but people have not been watching.
No.
It is the only returning sport that is not getting ginormous numbers. Everything's doing really well. Basketball is not. Something that I want to see. And it was the first round. We're just starting to get, they've been playing the meaningless games for 2 weeks. So it's hard to judge it against games of consequence.
And that's what those that are defenders of the NBA are saying, is that, hey, for a large degree, when we came back in the bubble and everybody was playing an 8-game regular season, most of the 8 games that people were playing were meaningless. I mean, now there was a fight for the final playoff spot in the West.
But the Pelicans didn't come out and play well, and that was the team everybody wanted to watch. They had this thing set up to try to get Zion in the playoffs. And the Pelicans did not get the memo that they were supposed to play well, because they didn't.
And because of it, their coach got fired. Also, Alvin Gentry, who on his way out of town took the beat writers out to dinner before he left town. in this day and age of the media sucks and the fake media and all that, all right, Alvin Gentry on his way out of town, all right, took the beat writers out to dinner before he left town. Wow. You don't hear a lot of that anymore. All right. Some of those guys, by the way, called for him to be fired. So it's just something that struck me. Obviously, it would maybe strike the two of us more than it would most people as being A, members of the media, so-called, and or B, two people who are put in a position to maybe call for someone's firing.
And we don't like to call for a lot of firings because we've been fired so much.
Right.
But we very rarely call for them.
Exactly.
Although I will say I got a great birthday present from NBCSN. I didn't know that they had me on their list, but they obviously listened to the show and helped make hockey better for me. Because nearly every day during these hockey playoffs, at some point in the first hour of the show, whether it was on air or during a commercial break, I would let everybody know just how pathetic Mike Milbury was as a broadcaster. He's awful. He's outdated. He was a defenseman in the 70s. The only reason he has the job is that he went to a U.S. college, played in Boston, and was a coach and general manager for a team in New York. And if you're a coach and a general manager, even if you're a bad one, and you're in New York, apparently you know more about the media than anybody else, at least according to New York people who run networks. So Milbury gets a cushy job, brings nothing to the table other than boredom of a sport that passed him by 10 years ago. And then when I think it was Eddie Olczyk's making this whole impassionate speech about, hey, you know, if guys are really into hockey, they're here, they're in the locker rooms, they're in the hotels here, they can really bond. And Milbury decides to throw out, yeah, there's not even women to distract him. And I think it was Olczyk just keeps talking, like just ignored that Milbury even interrupted to say the dumbest damn thing in the world. A lady who writes for The Athletic did a pretty good takedown piece on Mr. Milbury. And I saw it start trending. I went, he's in trouble. When I saw the tweet that said, really, 2020, I still need to hear this when I'm watching a game. And I went, oh boy, Mike, you're in trouble. They've got you in the crosshairs now. And so Milbury was taken off of the broadcast. Has not yet been fired.
Well, he claims, and the network claims, that Milbury took himself off. That Milbury said, listen, I don't want to be a distraction. I don't want to, I put NBC in a bad spot here. Don't want NBC to catch grief for when are they going to put me back on the air, et cetera. So Milbury basically said, hey, I'm out of here. And so now I think Milbury was in the bubble, though.
He was.
So, in a way, there might be a part of Milbury that's like, get me out of here. I want to go home. But
he did seem incredibly bored.
He did from the get-go. I mean, the 5 overtime game between the Lightning and the Blue Jackets, he hated it.
Right.
He hated it. In the second overtime, he's like, we got to end this thing. And the other thing is that game started at 3 p.m. I mean, it's not like a normal 5 overtime game that starts at 7:30 at night and it's 1 a.m. and he's saying this. I mean, at 7 o'clock, he's like, we got to end this thing. What do you mean we got to end it? It's 7 o'clock.
As everybody else on the planet's going nuts about this game. The
Right.
guy who's doing color can't tell you how much it sucks.
No, sucks. We got to end this. Oh, they're just playing.
It's just a bad rule.
Yeah. It's just, okay. All right.
Let's put 3-on-3 and have a shootout, you.
Meanwhile, Forsland or Gord Miller, whoever was doing the game, was just ignoring them and going right on. But yeah, no Mike Milbury. For those that missed it, in the first hour, I got a little upset about how this year's Indy 500 ended.
And by a little upset, he screamed at the camera for 30 minutes.
Mark, not quite that angry at any one time. But if you were to add them up over the last 2 weeks, very Moulton Indy 500-ish about Mike Milbury. So, yes, Mark got his wish this weekend. I did not. Once again, it was Mark's birthday weekend. NBCSN wishing Mark Miller a happy birthday.
Yes.
By eliminating Mike Milbury from the final 6 weeks of their Stanley Cup playoff coverage. And I don't think he'll come back because I think people in and around the network will realize, yeah, we didn't really miss this guy. I mean, the other people other voices, Brian Boucher, Patrick Sharp, Anson Carter, a little more Eddie Olchuk's, never a bad thing. There's also other guys out there in the industry, people who work for certain teams that people on Twitter started going, hey, you should, give this guy a couple games. He's really good. I mean, I think, once they get out of, there's a lot of people that are suggesting that CBS needs to find a new voice or two in their golf coverage. And there are many golf fans who are like, hey, I don't, you guys ever watch the Golf Channel? This guy, or, it just, hey, there were really one or two guys Fox had that I liked. Don't be afraid to, bring somebody new to the scene here.
But the Milbury thing, do you agree, David, with my premise that the fact that he was a GM for the Islanders and an American college guy has a lot to do with being hired?
Well, there's no doubt. And the Boston, New York connection, and how, hockey, the original six, I mean, pretty much between Boston, New York, and then you go right over the border, Montreal, Toronto, as far, basically you go as far west as Detroit. And the hockey world is right there. That is the hockey world. And if you take a look at who, for the most part, have been the major announcers in the sport, all right, they're in that geographic footprint. For the last 40 years.
They've not, because the sport extends to Minnesota. I mean, it's Minnesota and Boston. Go back to the whole Herb Brooks thing from Miracle when you watch that, but they don't go to the Midwest for announcers. They stay in New York.
Right.
That's where the networks are.
Right. I mean, the very early days of hockey on network television, the preeminent American voice was Dan Kelly, who was the first voice of the St. Louis Blues. And so for the NHL Game of the Week in the 70s and a couple of Stanley Cup games that got on network television into the early 80s, the Islanders actually brought the NHL back to network television. Why? As Mark pointed out, a New York team who made it to the finals. Stanley Cup finals were not on network television in 1980. CBS made a last-second deal with the NHL to broadcast Game 6 of the finals. Islanders were up 3-2 at the Nassau Coliseum. All of a sudden, that game, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday, all of a sudden that game appeared on network television. One game of the finals. And with the Islanders winning in overtime, it helped the NHL because what was it again, Mark? Oh, yeah, it was a New York team.
Right.
That won. But, Mark, to me, Mike Milbury is the Matt Millen of hockey. Okay? Matt Millen was a terrific player, borderline Hall of Fame player, and was a winner all throughout his life at Penn State, and then was with not one, not two, but 3 different teams that won the Super Bowl. 3. Raiders, Niners, Redskins. And they won the Super Bowl. And he was a starter on all 3. And when the Lions, and then he goes into the TV booth, and he's really good. And Mike Milbury is much the same way. Mike had a really nice NHL career. He gets an early gig. He wasn't Matt Millen, but he had a really nice career. The Bruins lost 2-3 times in the finals. Mike was a regular on those teams. Okay, and Mike does a little broadcasting, and then Mike starts coaching and being a GM. Matt does some broadcasting, and then Matt goes to be GM of the Lions. Well, when he has the drafts that he had, and then they go 0-16, there were those of us, and I'm one of them, that was like, well, you can't give him a headset again. He's got no credibility.
He lost all his credibility by being the general manager of the Lions. And to me, Milbury's run as coach and GM of the Islanders, he lost a lot of credibility there because it was bad. It was really
awful.
Bad.
It was awful. He ran that franchise into the ground. And then NBC gave him the prominent broadcasting gig. And those of us who like hockey were like, how could you give him a gig? He just, honestly, 4 drunks at the end of the bar with the internet could have run that franchise better than he did. I mean, seriously, he gave out some of the worst contracts literally in the history of the league. I mean, they write stories now. These are 10 worst contracts in the history of the NHL. Mike Milbury gave out 2 of them.
Didn't he? The DiPietro goaltender contract?
There you go.
That's,
right.
I mean,
yeah. Gave out a 12-year contract to a goalie.
Who didn't play in the league much longer.
No, got hurt and wasn't very good. Right. So.
That's a pretty good analogy right there.
Now, Millen, better player and better broadcaster. Okay, so my apologies to Matt Millen for lumping you in with Mike Milbury. I mean, Mike Milbury was a poor man's Matt Millen, quite frankly. But it was ironic that Matt Millen had been nothing but a winner and nothing but outstanding at everything he did. College, pro, broadcast booth, everything. But once the Lions go 0-16, it's kind of like, well, I don't know if we can give him a headset anymore. Well, yeah, he's got a good 30-year track record. Yeah, did I mention they went 0-16? I mean,
and yet he took another receiver.
Right, 3 receivers in a row in the first round. Well, he was just trying to surround Joey Harrington. That's all. 239-479-5551. 239-479-5551. Mark, very quietly, we are 17 days away from the Texans and the Chiefs.
It was the one thing that dawned on me that wasn't selfish yesterday because it was my birthday. But I did kind of sit there towards the end of the night and go, it's August 23rd with no preseason and no normalcy to football. Football's tough. It's tough for football to sneak up on you because once we start going to training camps, it's nonstop. But this year, training camps are Zoom meetings for beat writers. They're not at camp all that often. If they are, they're not that close. They're going back to run to their hotel room so they can do a Zoom chat with whoever the player is that they just watched in practice because they can't get close enough to them to interview them. So it's just a bizarro world, no preseason games. And you're right, we're 17 days away from starting the NFL season.
I was supposed to be, Mark, doing this show from Pittsburgh this morning because last night, I believe that was supposed to be the third preseason game between the Saints and the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
That's the one you do, right?
And that's
one preseason game.
Right. And usually whatever city is hosting the Super Bowl, whatever network is doing the Super Bowl will do their preseason game from that stadium. And it's a bit of a test run. Set up, take a look at what the angles are. All the network people kind of come in. And that's why last year Fox was doing the Super Bowl. They were doing it in Miami. And that's why Fox broadcast nationally a Jacksonville-Miami preseason game. Not the sexiest game to broadcast to the nation, needless to say. But they wanted to see the stadium. See camera angles and that sort of thing. And so CBS is doing this year's Super Bowl. They would have had one of the Bucs preseason games, with the game being in Tampa this year. That's another thing. The college football national championship games, Miami. The upcoming NHL All-Star games in Fort Lauderdale, and the Super Bowl this year is in Tampa. And none of us are in the mindset of attending a sporting event anymore.
You got it. And David and I, back in February or March, did a whole segment on what's happening in Florida here in the next year. It was in February before the Super Bowl. Right. Is what it was, because we're like Super Bowl, All-Star game, national championship, Super Bowl.
Yeah, all in a year.
13 months, all happening right here.
Yeah. It's going to be the greatest year if you've got a little bit of money and you feel like driving. You see a lot of great stuff,
right?
And
you can sit on your couch and see all that same great stuff with fake crowd noise pumped in.
Because that's probably what it's going to be. Bud Elliott, he covers college football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. We'll talk to Bud about any impact on the recruiting trail for the Big Ten and the Pac-12 because of the announcements that they've made, and also what he's hearing from the people he's talking to in the SEC, ACC, and the Big 12. They're going to be able to pull this thing off. Bud Elliott of 24/7 Sports to join us next. Vinny Serrato to talk NFL in an hour here on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is the Herd with Colin Cowherd.
One of these times I'm going to put an Australian rules football game on that's not a blowout. Collinwood here is just destroying whoever it is they're playing. They're up 30. Like, I want to watch this. Unbelievable. Kay Adams, you win. You're back.
Mark, it's got to be a really good Australian rules football game for Kay Adams to lose. I'll tell you that.
You got that right.
West Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
Why?
Galliana
Why?
can sell you a new car for less. 2020 Kia Forte LXS lease, just $49 per month. That's right, a new car for just $49 per month.
Seth Roenick's going to win his lawsuit. You do know that, though.
Yes, $13,990. Worried about your
I
credit?
mean, if you've seen the particulars of the lawsuit,
Almost anyone
I think I could represent Roenick and he'd win.
in any condition, even if you're upside down. Why? Why buy an overpriced used car when you can buy a new car for less? Brand new Kias, just $49 per month.
What are sports bars going to do? Are people going to go?
Yes. David, I mean, look at, you know where we live. But I mean, I literally was with a lot of people this week and got a lot of phone calls yesterday. And pretty much everyone just thinks
It was, Seth.
it was funny, Seth. I thought it was really funny. I'm sorry I didn't comment. We were just going to a break and I was going to. But you walk around and just ask people, when's the virus going to be over? They're a week after the election. It's what every single person answers that I talk to. They are convinced that this is done the second week in November. David, just saying. Hey, Jared, how much time we got here?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I can get up downstairs and call. I need. Hey,
Catch the show anytime. Check out Miller and Moulton.
Really? You need cake that badly? Cake? Please tell me it's coffee.
Need new glasses, but don't feel like leaving your house to shop? No problem. Warby Parker can help you out. Pick 5 pairs of Warby Parker frames, and they'll send them to your house for free. Try them on, take your time, get some opinions, see which ones you like.
I think we're going to start simulcasting on the we're going to do the bonus hour
It's super easy and it's
on the Landry Football Network on Twitch, 9 to 10 Eastern, 8 to 9 Central, either next week or I would prefer we start the Tuesday after Labor Day. It'll either be next week or the Tuesday after Labor Day. Wait, can we get what do we got there? That looks like just normal, like
it's a buntini.
Memphis Tom, the Big Ten is not playing in 2020. All right, they're not doing it.
It didn't take long for us to do something about it. Turns out some of the best cataract surgeons in the world are right here in our area at Community Eye Center.
We really care about improving people's lives by improving their vision.
Dr. Spalding and Dr. Spatafor really do care about helping people, and we're so glad they helped us.
They're excited. We share in that excitement. It makes us feel great about what we do.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr. Spatafor, and I want to remind everybody, don't be a spreader.
Uh-oh.
The coronavirus is so tiny.
What?
100 million particles fit on the head of a
Hang on, bud, if you're there. Son of a biscuit. My new piece of equipment's not working right. Bud, you there?
Yeah, you got me?
Yeah, I just had to switch out some equipment there. Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing good.
How's the family? Everybody okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just hanging out. Liam's walking. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool.
You're live.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? As Mark eats some more birthday cake in our live Twitch.tv broadcast. Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Bud Elliott's kind enough to join us once again. Mark, here's what I know. Bud has been kind enough to join us the last couple years in our second act. And I sent him a text a week ago and said, hey, you up for joining us again this year? And this is how busy he is. 3 days later, he said yes. And we have not worked out the specifics as the date and time. But we have a firm commitment from Bud Elliott of 24/7 Sports. And you can follow Bud on Twitter at Bud Elliott, the number 3. We have a yes, Mark, from Bud Elliott for the upcoming football season.
And that's awesome. And, Bud let in the 6 seconds the truth came out. He may have not been busy, but he did just say his son's walking. Once the kid starts walking, your ability to get to your phone for a text has dropped by 60%.
That's true,
man.
Bud. That's true.
It's good to be back on with you guys. it's been interesting with all these conferences, canceling or not canceling, and then canceling, and then trying to save face and say that we don't want to cancel. And there's people like it's kind of in a quiet off season, right? Like, no, it's been a very busy off season as far as all that stuff's concerned.
Well, Bud, all right, you know far more people than we know, and you talk to insiders more than we do on a regular basis. In your educated opinion, what do you think will be, not now, but will be the fallout from the road that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have gone down? Do you think the fallout's going to be costing certain people their jobs? Do you think it's going to hurt them recruiting wise? Their next TV contract, when it comes up, their stature will not be the same. I mean, from people inside the sport that you talk to, what do you think the collateral damage will be, if any, from their decisions?
So it's hard to know right now, simply because we don't know what they're going to be judged against, right? If the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 continue to push forward and are actually able to pull off a season, which they think they can right now, I have some doubts about that, but I'm extremely excited, from a content perspective, that they're trying. Let's say that they go and are actually able to pull off season. Then the Big 10 and Pac-12, they do look, kind of bad in comparison. Then I think it comes down to, are they able to successfully play a spring season, which again, I have some real concerns and doubts that you can actually pull off a spring season, but maybe they will, right? There's a lot of money on the line. And so I think it's important that they at least try. I'm kind of the opinion that I thought that all the stuff from the ADs and the coaches and even some of the presidents saying, I don't know if we had a vote in the Big Ten. The most nonsense stuff ever, right? Look, Kevin Warren is paid to take the heat for the decisions which his bosses, who are the presidents of the schools in the Big Ten, he's paid to take the heat for the decisions they make. I think for anybody to actually believe that Kevin Warren made the decision to cancel the season without a vote or at least consensus from his presidents is pretty ridiculous. And that doesn't necessarily imply that every single president was on board. But I think it's very clear that the presidents, talking to their lawyers, talking to their medical people in the Big Ten, were very concerned about the myocarditis issue. With the heart complain and kind of save face in a way by proclaiming very publicly and loudly just how much they wanted to play football, where they weren't the ones making the call. It was the president. But do you guys really buy that Kevin Warren made this call without his boss's approval?
Made the call? No. Do I think he helped influence the presidents, though? I do. I think that when the presidents were on the phone, that Kevin Warren was, I don't want to play. And he let that feeling be known to the presidents. This is my feeling. This is what our medical people are saying. What do you guys want to do?
That's fair. No, and look, I think a poor job of consensus building, and I think a very poor job of messaging, right? Like the Pac-12 is not really getting heat for this, and in part because it's not as popular of a conference, but also, and obviously there's a lot of state regulations out there in Pac-12 land that were going to make it very difficult to play football. But the Big Ten didn't release any of the medical concern information like the Pac-12 did. And I think that kind of led to people saying, well, hey, what's this decision based on? And it also didn't say anything about the vote, right? Like if the Big Ten came out and said, hey, not unanimous, but pretty close, and it's the call of the school presidents, I think people take this message a little bit better. The messaging on it, I think, was kind of poor.
Well, and I also think it doesn't help that the Big Ten media has been angry about this. When there was all of a sudden, looks, we're doing the show Friday, and I see the police have blocked off the area around the Big Ten offices. I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be this big protest there were 30 protesters and 35 media members. I mean, when there's more media members covering a protest than there are protesters, are we really doing a good job covering the sport? I do think that this all weighs into it a bit, Bud.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, look, there's far less media covering Pac-12 football than there is Big Ten football. It's like Big Ten football is really second only to the SEC in terms of popularity. So, yeah, the media frenzy about it, this looks, I think, somewhat similar to how it would look if the SEC made this call, you know. And I think we all kind of understand how that would go, and hell, maybe it still will. As far as recruiting fallout, it's an interesting thing. We discussed it on the Barton and Bud podcast the other day, my show with Barton Simmons, and I don't know how big it would be. Right? There's a couple ways you can play this. If you want to negatively recruit an SEC school and you're a school that's still playing in the fall, you can pretty easily sell, I think, that hey, like we take football seriously here. Okay, we're not voting to cancel the season. Now that might play with players. Some players, and probably even fewer parents. If you're a Big Ten school, you can say, hey, we actually care about your son and your son's health and physical well-being. And so we decided to wait until spring to play. Like there just wasn't enough data about this new pandemic that we're having right now for us to play in the fall. So I can see how they would spin it both ways. I don't anticipate that we're going to get official visits in the fall regardless. So that was my initial thought. I was like, wait a second. Are some of these schools going to be able to host official visitors in the fall and take them to games and show them big game atmospheres? And I think it's pretty clear the answer to that is no, right? We're probably not going to have visitors allowed during games. We're certainly not going to have full stadiums. So everybody's still pretty much recruiting digitally. And I will add, all these schools which are not playing in the fall now, those coaches are going to be doing exactly what they've been doing forever now, which is basically sitting in their office or on their phone recruiting for 40 hours a week because there's nothing really else for them to do.
We're talking with Bud Elliott, who covers college football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. You can follow Bud on Twitter at Bud Elliott, the number 3, Bud Elliott 3. Our thought, and you tell us if we're wrong, we think Ohio State, even if the Big Ten is negatively impacted by this, that Ohio State will be fine. But that the rest of the Big Ten will be negatively impacted from a recruiting standpoint, particularly a Michigan, who has to recruit nationally. And while, yes, maybe west of the Mississippi and some of those states and, California and what have you, maybe their image won't take a hit. But, Bud, for the most part, I mean, the players are in the South, and the South is playing. Okay. I mean, don't you think that this is just, that the ACC in particular, what Max got going at North Carolina, the football rich Virginia, never mind Clemson, the 2 Florida schools. I mean, it seems to me as if this is just, a little bit more even wind in the back of the sails of the ACC, and it's going to be a little bit more of a headwind for the rest of the Big Ten from a recruiting standpoint, because they're going to be trying to get players from the South. And the people in the South are going to be looking at them going, yeah, but you guys didn't play.
Right. No, you're exactly right about that. And again, this is assuming that the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 do go ahead and manage to play. I mean, I think if you talk privately with people who, are in those leagues, they have a little bit of doubt that they're going to be able to pull this off, but they're still going forward with it. I think you're right to an extent. And a lot of this too will depend on if they play in the spring or not, right? Because if they play in the spring, you might be able to pitch to a kid, hey, if you early enroll, you can actually play here for free because we know that everybody's going to get an extra year of eligibility now for free. So if you're going to be a January enrollee, come to us. We're playing in the spring, right? You'll be able to play immediately, which could be an interesting recruiting base. I do think that the element of out of sight, out of mind that you bring up essentially is potentially going to hurt some of the Big Ten schools, not Ohio State. Ohio State is just they're a little bit different level than all the other schools, but it certainly could hurt them.
Well, and when you look at the Big Ten too, they take pride in their academics. I know it's a football conversation, and the Pac-12 similarly, the ACC similarly, the Big 12 and the SEC. Well, if you say they're football conferences, it's hard to argue. But when there's Virginia and Duke and Wake Forest and North Carolina, these are really high-end academic schools. Do you think that the most likely conference to not finish is the ACC?
Yes, but only partially because of the academic issue, right? I think that the main thing that you would look at here is the number of states involved within the ACC and all the different state regulations. But right now, you still have to quarantine if you're coming from Florida and going to, I think, New York or Massachusetts, which is where Syracuse and Boston College are located. So that is potentially a problem. And I'm sure a lot of people just go up there and don't quarantine. But if you're, state school and you're up there, you're either going to need to get a waiver or, basically just not play up there. The ACC, I think, has, what do they have? I think 9 different states in which their schools play. Maybe it's 8. The rest of these leagues are far more spread out for the most part, especially as far as distance between each other, with the exception of like the Big 12, West Virginia stuff. So I think the number of different state regulations you're dealing with in the ACC and the kind of like wide array of politics that you're getting in those states in the ACC compared to the SEC, the Big 12, for the most part politically, they're very close, right? So I think that creates additional levels of logistical challenges. So I would agree with you, guys. I think the ACC is the one that would be most likely to pull the plug if anybody does.
We're talking college football and a little recruiting with Bud Elliott of 24/7 Sports. Bud, for a few years now, you have paid close attention to the elite recruits that are leaving the state of Florida and how the big 3 in the state have not been keeping, particularly the 5 stars. I thought I've noticed here in the last 2-3 weeks that Miami has kept a couple, and I thought Florida got one the other day. And this is, am I wrong? And is this as big a deal as I think it is? Because you have gone to great lengths to show that basically there's been a talent drain in this state.
No, you're not wrong at all. And in fact, we're noticing just nationally with the pandemic, with kids being unable to take visits, they are staying closer to home. And so, James Williams, who for all the world, I think everybody thought was going to Georgia maybe 100 days ago, commits to Miami. Jason Marshall doesn't get up there to check out Alabama and commits to Florida. Leonard Taylor stays home and goes to Miami. We've seen a number of these guys recently. Corey Collier, I think, was always going to go to stay in state. But yeah, there is no doubt that kids are not going as far away from home as they normally would. And I think part of that is because, like, if you live in Ocala, I know Florida's campus is closed and you can't visit with the coaches, but you can drive over and see the school. You're not going to fly up to Michigan, most likely right now, unless you're a kid with, significant resources. Same thing with Miami, obviously. So that has been a pretty big deal. We're seeing a big impact of the pandemic of essentially kids wanting to stay closer to home. And I also think that there is not only just we have not been able to go up and see places element to this, but I think there's also, moms and dads probably want their kids a little bit closer to home during uncertain times.
Bud, sorry to throw this one out at you, but with all the revamped scheduling that's gone on here in the last 3-4 weeks, whether it's an ACC team or an SEC team or a Big 12 team, a team that you think has been most affected, a good team, a program in which you had some expectation for this year, good or bad, a team that you think has been most affected by the revamped schedule?
Okay, yeah, because if you're going to say bad, I was going to say Arkansas.
Well, yeah, Arkansas, Missouri got crushed,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and Arkansas already had the toughest schedule in the SEC, so nobody in my schedule rankings are more than a half standard deviation on the difficult side. Arkansas is more than 2 full standard deviations higher. So they're just off the planet as far as how tough they are relative to the rest of the league. I'll go ahead and stick in the SEC though. I do think that A&M drawing Florida, this was the year that A&M's schedule was very easy and they had a lot of experience. Now, I think the experience will still be a huge plus for them, assuming we're able to play the season, because they're a school that probably didn't need a whole lot of spring and summer practice, but now they have to play Florida, and that's another potential loss on the Aggie schedule. Whereas LSU's schedule really didn't get tougher; kind of got a little bit easier, and Bama's kind of as well there. And then UNC has the easiest schedule in the ACC. If Notre Dame slips up at all, or if UNC just beats them, you could easily see the Tar Heels in Charlotte for the championship game.
Bud, thanks for making time for us. Glad to hear that you and the family are safe and doing well, and we look forward to our regular conversations throughout the season. Be good.
Jordan, guys, take care.
Bud Elliott covers college football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. 24/7 Sports. You can follow Bud on Twitter at BudElliott3. And I know, Mark, we've brought this up, but two things happened to A&M. One, and yes, it happened to Florida because the A&M game got added to Florida's schedule, but Florida's schedule seems much more balanced in terms of when their tough games are. A&M had their first 10 games, they were going to be favored in at least 9 of them. And the game at Auburn was going to be probably a 4-point spread either way. Okay, now week 2, they're playing Bama. Week 3, they're playing Florida. I mean, instead of them being 9-1 or 10-0 for when they play Bama and LSU, instead they could be 1-2.
Right. And the other schedule, you're building. You're getting better. You get confidence in a quarterback that's supposed to be the best in the SEC this year. Now you could be 1-2, and your season could be over.
Right. Miller and Moulton. It is the 24th of August. It is time for Mark to let us know about today was the day when. Vinny Serrato to talk NFL about 40 minutes from now. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
The NBA's bubble exposes you. Are you a guy that cannot manage your body? The bubble also exposes
Memphis Tom, to give you an idea, though,
you understand?
my first college game this year is September 19th, and it's going to be at West Point. It's going to be BYU at Army because the SEC season doesn't start until the following weekend. Well, I got to go into the state of New York. I got to fly into either Newark or JFK or LaGuardia. Technically, remember, I got a driver's license, Florida license. So I'm going to drive. Now I'm going to drive from Cleveland because the Thursday night game is Cincinnati at Cleveland, but it's about 500 miles. But they're not going to stop me on the road. But they might give me a hard time, though. They'll know that I'm a Floridian if I'm flying in. And I just don't even want to deal with it.
Breaking the law. Sorry, that's all I got right now.
Nice.
I'm just trying to get through. Seth, you're welcome. That follow-up question was just for you.
Tolls. I don't know that the roads I'll be traveling on, at least most of them don't have.
And they've all got the autos now.
Tolls.
You just hit the rental car, pay for it. It's a good point, David. You could use the passport for an ID. Oh, but your passport says where you're from.
Yeah.
It says you're. Is it died yet? Oh.
Arch, take it easy now. The city is awesome. I don't know if the city will ever be the city again, though, after this. I don't know if the city will ever feel the same after this.
Oh, it will.
I think from a business standpoint, first off, I think there's a lot of business that's going to leave the city. A lot less office space needed, businesses that go under.
I've been saying all along, I think we can solve the housing crisis for poor people in this country because there's going to be vacant office buildings everywhere.
Yeah, if communities are willing to rezone,
they're going to be left with no choice. They're going to have empty buildings.
Well, I think so also, but but Mark, and during some of the time that you spent in the city, I mean, part of the greatness of the city is just how great the restaurants are. I mean, and so many different choices. I mean, that is a part of the feel of the city. And there are a lot of restaurants that are everywhere, but particularly in states in which they've been tougher with their restrictions. I mean, still can't dine indoors in Jersey. Like my mother went out for a birthday dinner late last week. They had to sit outside. Now, I will say what some of the communities that I've heard about, and Seth could chime in on this, like, normally you need permits to, for outdoor seating and this, that, and the other thing. I know a lot of the communities in Jersey, they're just like, don't even worry about it. Just set up whatever you need to set up, make it work, whatever you need to do to stay in business.
Well, it's funny. One of the things they would never be able to do in the city, but like in Naples, where Boston Beer Garden is, that mall there, David?
Mm-hmm.
They're redoing the whole facade, and they're basically taking the sidewalk everywhere and increasing it by about 8-10 feet. So all these restaurants will have outdoor seating. Like they're basically taking a row of the parking lot and get rid of it so they can extend out.
Well, and I actually think that going forward, that's going to help. If they can get through this, that'll help them, because let's face it, I mean, we love to eat outdoors here.
Some of you do. I hate it.
Really? I love it. Wow.
I don't want bugs on my food.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had the breeze usually. I don't know. I haven't found that Florida. There are states in which you can't eat outside, but I
6 months out of the year.
See, and it's funny. I've never felt that.
This is Miller and Moulton. You're live.
Eight minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels, and proud to be simulcasting on the 24/7 Twitch.tv channel that is the Landry Football Network. Vinny Serrato to talk NFL in about 35 minutes' time. Right now, time for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When.
Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Today was the day one, brought to you by Normer Jeans by Page Field in Fort Myers. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you for that text today. Love that people are really infiltrating the Williamson Brothers Marine Talk and Text line with defunct places in Southwest Florida to make this a lot more fun. 1951 is where we start today. For whatever reason, August 24th, a very boring sports and life day. Not much happened, period.
Think about it. No major golf championship. The U.S. Open tennis hasn't started yet. Football hasn't started yet.
Right. So we go to 1951, where Bill Veck's Browns defeated the A's 5-3, but it was fans' managers' night. Browns coaches held up placards for the fans to vote on. I don't know if the placard said, fastball, changeup, or slider, but I loved the idea of it.
So was this the original 4 drunks at the end of the bar, via the internet running your team promotion?
Since everybody was going so low in Boston over the weekend, I do want to point out that today in 1984, Pat Bradley set an LPGA record for 9 holes when she goes 28 in the second round of the Columbia Savings National at Green Gables Country Club in Denver. 2-8.
It's like a bad miniature golf score for a 9. Damn.
Today in 1992, Hurricane Andrew hit South Florida, which, just think about that for a second. We're on Larco here, Laura and Marco, right? Isn't that what's going?
Right.
With Andrew today, late August.
Right.
That's pretty wild that was the first one of the year. 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing becomes the most watched television event ever. Nearly 5 billion people, or 70% of the world's population, watched the Beijing Olympics. 2017, Mavis Wansek of Massachusetts wins the largest ever jackpot, Powerball jackpot, $758 million, won by one person.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. Let that sink in for a little while. mean, that's even tougher for you to take than the last 5 laps of the Indy 500 being run under caution.
Close. Close.
Today you share your birthday with Vince McMahon. I don't know if you'd want to admit that. Mike Shanahan, born today in 1952. Cal Ripken is 60 today. Reggie Miller is 55. Rich Beam is 50. Dave Chappelle is 47. And Arian Foster is 34. And that is today was the day when on this August 24th, brought to you by Norma Jeans by Page Field in Fort Myers.
So Rich Beam can play in this week's Champions Tour event, and Phil Mickelson will play in this week's Champions Tour event. He didn't make the second round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. He finished 75th, top 70 advance. And so Phil, who likes to play a lot of golf leading into majors, Phil was planning on making it to the second round. And once that went away, and then he's obviously not going to be able to play the week after. So Phil's going to play on the Champions Tour this week. That'll be a boon for them.
Well, not only that, it's Phil might need some extra pocket change, so he needs to bet some people that he knows he can beat.
Remember, though, those guys only just started playing again like a week or so ago. I mean, a lot of them are going to look at Phil and go, Phil, we haven't made any money for 5 months.
They're doing just fine.
Well,
the PGA's pension is solid, David. It is solid. They do not have to worry one single bit.
But we don't know how many of them have lost that in a divorce.
Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio. All I can think of is that life insurance commercial on Sirius. What is a big? This is big, but Big Lou. If you're
right,
like, I'm on wife number, but I'm on wife too.
Right. Will I be tested, Foot Fan? Yes. My understanding is I will be. In fact, I have 2 Zoom meetings today that I am ordered to be a part of, in which we're going to get particulars. Hey, Arch, take it easy now. Okay, about flipping off certain states. Some of us are from those states. Take it easy now.
Yeah, you can't make fun of New Jersey. Only David can make fun.
Right. Mark and I can make fun of the Catholic Church. We're Catholic. Okay. But yes. Well, that's also, though, and who was it who asked? Foot Fan. There are certain states, though, in which like part of the requirement supposedly is like you're supposed to be able to prove your COVID status. I've yet to be tested.
Sounds more like a dumb speaker, am I right?
I begged, by the way, when I was in the hospital for 10 days to be tested. And they said, you have to show the symptoms.
Hello.
And I go, well, you do know a whole bunch of people have it and are asymptomatic. I mean, while I'm under here, could you give me a test? And they wouldn't do it.
And no, Rich Beam has not quit golf. In fact, they're playing a senior tour event that starts today, and he has a 2:25 tee time.
Lift each other up. Be a little naughty. Cry. Laugh. Eat.
Exactly, Seth. You can, I can't.
And then maybe get or eat. Do this. Be with me.
What's that Adam Sandler joke? Paul Newman is half Jewish. Okay, Goldie Hawn too. You put the two of them together, and that's one fine-looking Jew.
Southwest Florida, 105.9 Fox Sports Radio. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending.
I did not realize this.
For Men's Health.
I didn't realize that the NBC fired Adam Sandler. You know how usually somebody who's successful, they leave Saturday Night Live on their own? I did not realize that the network, told Adam Sandler, you got to go.
They did a whole piece on him last night on 60 Minutes. I didn't see any of it. We just had the TV was still on after golf, so I know that the story ran. Is that where you got that?
Yeah. Yep.
Was it good? Did you watch it?
Yeah, it was a re-air of something they had run in March, and I'd missed it in March, but I watched it last night.
Makes sense because he had that. Have you seen that? Anybody seen the jewelry movie with Adam Sandler?
The one he got nominated for?
He didn't get nominated. They thought he was going to.
Yeah. So NBC fired him, and that's why there was a really funny thing when he finally came back to SNL a couple years ago. and he did his monologue and he was singing and he joked about NBC firing him. And since then, I've made $4 billion at the box office. So I guess it's fair to say I won.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Miller,
I drove, which made me happier. I didn't let Uncut Gems. Yeah, I really want. I know it's on Netflix, so I need school to start. I really need school to start. I got a month before they're going to get back home. I figure I got 4 weeks of television before my daughter's sent home.
Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it. Now, the best local sports show this town has ever
But does
heard.
Francesa know he's in it?
Miller and Moulton. You're live.
As we approach a couple of minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you, wherever you may be. Hope you had a good weekend. Thanks for starting your week with us. We are Miller and Moulton on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We stream the show every morning, millerandmoulton.com. If you miss any part of the show, every hour of the show gets its own podcasts, and you can also go to millerandmoulton.com and get them there. Also, our poll question can be found at millerandmoulton.com. And our poll question on this day, so who had the better performance over the weekend? Luka, with his remarkable game last night, or late yesterday afternoon, rather. All right, what did he have? 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, hit the game-winning three as time expired in overtime to beat the Clippers by 2 and even their playoff series at 2 games apiece. And then there was DJ. Dustin Johnson went 60, 64, 63 since we last did a show. Shot 30 under, won by 11. 11.
His interview Friday after the 60. DJ's, I think, a tough interview because he doesn't give long answers. I don't think he gives bad answers, but DJ's a sentence or two tops. He's not Brando. You better be ready with your next question when you're asking your first question. And so he shot, 67 the first day and then came back with 60. Well, you were whatever in putting on Thursday. What was the difference on Friday? He goes, well, I hit the ball pretty good both days. They went in. And I mean, it was because it was, and he just kind of said, he goes, I hit the ball about the same both days. Putts went in. I mean, you knew it was coming, but I mean, DJ just kind of had this incredible, like you said earlier, he always has this look of, I don't want to be here and I'm better than this every time he's walking. And he just kind of like, the putts went in. That's why.
Right. I mean, I got 15 feet for birdie basically the same days. All right. The 15-footers went in today. Don't know what to tell you. They may not go in tomorrow. They didn't yesterday.
They did all weekend.
60, 64, 63. 187 the last 3 rounds. 187. Your average round is 62. Oh, my goodness. And like you said, a couple buddies who, are pretty darn good golfers and play there. And they're like, man, that course is long. That course is hard. Now they tore this thing up like it's a dog track.
Just abused it. 7,200 yards and treated it like it was Fort Myers Country Club with flat greens.
Well, they did that a few years ago at Plainfield Country Club in New Jersey, which is always makes the list of like top 100 courses in the country. It's a Donald Ross design, the whole deal, but it was soft, and it was the first week of the FedEx Cup here, and they just, tore it to shreds. You went like 25, 26 under, won it.
We have Vinny Serrato coming up here in about 20 minutes. And one of the stories David mentioned in the starting 5, and almost, I don't want to say in passing, but mentioned that I think, and we'll talk with Vinny about it coming up, but over the weekend, there were 77 false positive tests at the Bioreference Laboratory in New Jersey for NFL players.
Oops.
So a bunch of teams end up canceling any days that they have yesterday, just out of fear. We're 17 days away from kickoff. 17.
Chiefs, Texans.
If you're like me, when you hear that, you go, wow. Because with no preseason, the football season's just going to start. And by this point, we've already had week 3. This has been week 3 preseason. This was the big week where people would have had conclusions about everybody.
Yeah.
We would have been able to tell you who was going to win the Super Bowl based off of this weekend's games.
Well, we certainly know who roster-wise. I mean, this is it.
We know who the quarterback is in Chicago right now. We know what's going on in New England right now, but we don't know a damn thing.
Nope.
And while the teams do, maybe better than we do, obviously, they don't know anything about where we're going with COVID-19. And when 77 false positive tests come to the NFL, do you think on a scale of freaking out, I'm assuming most every NFL front office right now to use Spinal Tap has gone to 11.
Well,
because as you mentioned, Dave, sorry, but as you mentioned, think about this on a Friday or a Saturday.
Right. Let's just say this happens.
Just think about this 15 days from now. They test on Tuesday for the Thursday night game, and Patrick Mahomes and 4 other guys test positive, but they're not really positive.
Well, we mentioned it late last week. What if what happened to the Mets, which the week before happened to the Reds, literally 2 Mets employees, one a player, one a staffer, tested positive. The result came back midday Thursday. The Mets haven't played now for 4 straight days. And the week before, one Reds player tested positive. The Reds didn't play for 4 straight days. Well, okay, that's baseball. It's 4 out of 60 and what have you. Well, what if we've asked? We don't know. But I think we all who want sports are fearful, particularly in college football. If on a Thursday or a Friday, a test result comes back and there's a positive, which is going to happen. I mean, the odds are overwhelming that at some point it's going to happen. In fact, I think most of us, don't you think once the season starts, don't you think every team is going to have one player at some point that tests positive over the next 10 weeks?
David, it seems almost impossible for it not to happen.
And so if football, and the similarity between football and baseball is they're both not having a bubble. They're both allowing travel. They're both allowing everybody to go back to their respective places, whether it be a house or dorm or apartment or what have you. And so if this is how baseball is handling it, to try to prevent what happened to the Marlins, where one case became 4, which became 18, what happened to the Cardinals, where 2 became 5, which became like 8. All right. And they shut down for nearly 2 weeks. And so this is what baseball's now doing. 1 positive test, shut it down, minimum of 4 days. We test everybody else. And then we see if we can move forward. Well, if this happens on a Thursday or a Friday with a college football team or a pro football team, what will they do? And Mark, you're bringing up the nightmare scenario, which is, it turns out, wow, we got 8, 9, 11 guys. I mean, I think one of the teams involved had 11.
At 11.
And one had 9 and the other had 8 false positives, as it turned out. Pat's been on the show to say that he believes that the test, particularly when you go on the road, that since it's harder to get a secondary test, it's harder to bring in a replacement player, et cetera, that in a way the tests have to be done even a touch earlier than when you're at home. But I'm wondering now, Mark, if this has struck a little bit of fear in the NFL, in which there's talk of this Yale saliva test.
Saliva test, right.
Will that be, will they administer that as a backup right away? All of a sudden, we got your results. We sent it to the lab. It took a day, comes back, you're positive. Do they then administer the Yale saliva test to get an indication as to whether or not they think it could be a false positive? I got to play tomorrow. I've been negative for 2 months here.
And
I was negative the other day.
And David, that you and I have been since damn near March saying, okay, what do you do when someone comes back positive? Baseball didn't have an answer. They've come up with one. And whether you like what they've done or not, they have instituted their policy. I mean, David said flat out on the show Friday, hey, Met tested positive. Mets-Yankees series is going to get canceled. Just write it down. And it was 30 minutes after we were off the air that the series was canceled.
Right. They didn't play this
Well, you
week.
can't. I mean, you can, but the NFL does not want to be canceling football games. Can't play doubleheaders.
No.
And they did not put in an extra bye week. They kept the schedule the same.
Right.
They have really made zero preparations for canceled games. I even suggested, and David blew it out of the water, and you're right for your reasoning, is that there should have been a universal bye week. Because this is the other problem in football. If Tampa Bay has 4 positives and they can't play, well, that's great. But the bye week's got to line up with whoever they're canceling. And it's not going to most of the time.
And there's 2 ways to look at 1, 2, or 4 positives. You take those players out of circulation, so to speak, their replacements move in and you play. But what we think we know is there's up to a 14-day incubation period. And what happened with the Marlins? What if you continue to go forward and 1 becomes 4, which becomes 18, but you're not aware of this as you send everybody out onto the field, then this could be a problem, not only amongst your team, but potentially you could help spread it with the other. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And what would the NFL do? And it's a hypothetical, so we're not going to get an answer. Leagues don't like to answer hypotheticals. Politicians and sports executives don't like to answer hypotheticals, and they shouldn't ever answer a hypothetical. A politician should never answer a hypothetical. All right. Biden just got in trouble answering one.
But a football person should have to answer a hypothetical about what is possible.
Right.
What are your not a hypothetical? What are your plans for A, B, and C?
Right.
Now I'm sure they have them. I hope.
But they're not telling us.
No clue what they are.
They're not telling us. But I do think it is fair to say to the NFL, hey, what happened? What happens if what happened that second to last weekend in August? What if that happens? Either way, by the way, false positives or it turns out, wow, guess we got a little bit of an issue here. So is the intention to just take them out of circulation? The other guys move in and they play, or if there's more than 4. We're not going to play that week. We're going to shut the team down. We're going to make sure everything's okay. I mean, what is it you're thinking?
And the one thing that Pat has said, and I guarantee he'll say it tomorrow, how are they going to travel? Pat's a front office executive. He has been for 2 months going, I think they're going to need to take 2 planes. Now, he's got no confirmation. I know he's asked, and these are the things he keeps talking about. He's trying to break down linemen, but at the same time, the front office guy to him is going, okay, how are we going to travel? We're not traveling day off. We're going to travel Saturday. How are we going to get, once we're at the airport? Again, they're out of the bubble. They're going to show up. They're going to go home and then show up at the facility. Who knows who they came in contact with in the 24 hours, essentially, from when they left the facility to when they travel.
Pat asked me, like the practice squad this year, taxi squad, whatever it is that you want to refer to it as, it's bigger this year. In fact, you're allowed to keep 6 veterans on it. You're never allowed to keep any veterans on it. The practice squad is meant for younger players that don't have much service time. You have to make a decision on the veterans. Well, this year, you're going to be able to keep 6 of the 16 players that you're going to be able to keep around. 6 of them can be veterans. And Pat asked us a week or so ago, who would you keep? And then my first thought is that most of these 6 have to be, like the glass in case of emergency break glass. You got to have a 4th quarterback, because the fear is one of your quarterbacks gets it, they can spread it throughout the room. You need to have a 4th quarterback who does not spend a whole lot of time around the other 3. You need to have a kicker. It'd be great if you could have somebody who could also in a pinch punt for the day, or vice versa. You need a long snapper. I mean, you hate to waste a roster spot on a long snapper, okay, but that's a quick way to lose a game, is if you don't have somebody who can get the ball to the holder and or the punter. I mean, bad things are going to happen. You're going to lose points because of it, and you're going to give up points because of it. I mean, if you don't have a guy who can a long snap, believe it or not, I mean, it could cost you 20 points in a game. I mean, it really could. 2 or 3 bad snaps could cost you 20 points. if you add it up both ways. And and that's, I mean, what just took place this weekend,
right?
77 false positives.
Again, they can't just postpone the 3-game series in football. I want to tell you this right now. The Chicago Cubs have won as many games as the St. Louis Cardinals have played.
Right.
The Cards are trailing the Cubs by 3 in the NL Central. The Cubs are 17-10. The Cardinals are 9-8.
Right. 43 games in 35 days, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. Right now is what the Cardinals have to play. 43 in 35.
Which also throws in there no positive test for the Cardinals, no positive test for any of their opponents.
Right.
And no rainouts. Okay.
But remember, in theory in baseball, you can make them up. It's called a doubleheader.
And there's no clause in the NFL schedule for any sort of makeup games. They're still jamming 16 games in 17 weeks.
Now, in theory, could they, because they have a week in between the conference championship game and the Super Bowl, if they felt they needed to, could they push the start of the playoffs back a week? Absolutely, they could.
Right.
And in fact, the NFL throughout the course of the spring and summer has said, listen, we've got assurances from the city of Tampa. We can hold this game any of the 4 weekends in February. NFL has said, we are not going to play this game outside of the month of February. So if you think about it, the NFL has got 4 weeks built in. The week in between conference championship and when the Super Bowl is scheduled. And then in theory, they've got 3 more weeks in February. They have 4 weeks to play with. But as Mark said, they didn't build any in during the 16-week season and or the playoffs. They would have to just keep pushing everything back. They did not allow themselves a collective pause. Hey, let's take inventory. Let's see how we're doing. SEC didn't either, by the way. I mean, the SEC schedules, they've got like 4 teams have a bye week this week, 4 the next, 4 the following. And you just hope that, if during the season, maybe your, bye weeks match up. Otherwise, they gave themselves that 1 week in between the end of the regular season and the conference championship game. If games need to be made up for whatever reason, Saturday, December 12th, Army-Navy Day, the SEC has left blank and said, hey, we'll make games up that weekend. And the other conferences have said their conference championship games are flexible. They can push them back if need be. Okay.
Very bold. Very bold.
But 77 false positives. Oops. And as Mark pointed out, the perfect timing for this story is, when did the false positive results come? Over the weekend. It is the nightmare scenario. Well, I guess you could argue the nightmare scenario would be 77 positives. Okay. But either way, you have to treat, at the time you're treating them as positive. They turn out to be false positive. And when do the results come in? They come in 24 hours or so before kickoff. Well, what do we do? I mean, it's easy to cancel practice.
Well, and as you mentioned in the beginning of this, they don't want to answer hypotheticals. Well, the hypotheticals are there now. We had an instance on a weekend that could repeat itself in 3 weeks and becomes a serious situation. They have to be able to, what happens if this happens, September or whatever?
Yeah. Right.
It's not a hypothetical anymore. You just had this happen.
Right.
When it does again, or we have that many positives, what do?
Right. What if 3 weeks from now, it's Saturday, September 12th, and we've got 77 positives spread out over goodness knows how many teams? One team with 11, one team with 9, one team with 8. All right. I mean, what is the magic number? What is the number in which the league goes? Listen, if you get an outbreak and all of a sudden you've got more than, what is it? Is 4 the number? What's the number in which they go, that's an outbreak, you're not playing? I mean, because in theory, Mark, you've got to believe. I mean, we don't know, obviously. So this may be dangerous on my behalf to say this. I got to believe if what took place this weekend happens on Saturday, September 12th, whether they're false positives or positives. But we get one team with 11, one team with 9, one team with 8. Those 3 teams are not playing. That will be my guess.
How could they? And then what?
Exactly. And then imagine, just imagine, by the way, those games get canceled. And 24 hours later, it goes, we screwed up the test result. What? Excuse me?
But even worse, David, let's just say they're positive, that all of a sudden there is an outbreak on the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
You're going to play the next week with the outbreak, or are we going to take 2 weeks off? How many games have we just missed?
And the NFL, I don't believe, has declared. So what are they going to determine the playoff spots on? One would guess it's winning percentage, right? But you could have an instance in which one team plays 15 games and another team plays 14. They want everybody to play the same number of games, just like Major League Baseball would love for everybody to have 60 games played at the end of the season. Does anybody think the Cardinals are playing 60 this year? Anybody? Bueller? They ain't getting 60 games in. No way.
But David, right now, they have a firm spot in the playoffs.
Right.
So if you're the 8th place team saying, wait a minute, they've got to play 10 more games, and if they go 4-6, I'm in. We're just going to let them in? Because,
I know, because if you're we just saw it, quite frankly, with the NBA with the 8-9. When they resumed action with 8 games to play, Memphis had a 3.5 game lead and a 4-game lead over 4 teams. Memphis did not hold on to the 8 seed. Portland actually passed them. Phoenix, remember, was barely invited to the bubble, went 8-0. I mean, what is it that Major League Baseball and or the NFL is going to do? Because obviously, in theory, you don't play 3 games in the NFL. Well, you could lose them all. You could win them all, but you could lose them all.
I mean, the Marlins and the Cardinals are both in the playoffs right now.
Right. They're right around 500.
The Marlins are, and the Cardinals are a game above it. Yes.
And both teams right now, with how the rest of their divisions are struggling, both the Marlins and the Cardinals, out of the side of their mouth, are like, it'd probably be great if we don't make up all these games. Our playoff chances are probably better.
And if you're the Mets or the Reds going, I don't know what to tell you, but if I beat these guys 3 times in the games we make up, we're in.
Right. Oh, sorry. You played 60. They played 51.
And again, there's no doubleheaders in football.
No.
So I have no earthly idea what happens when the scenario that just was presented in front of us over the weekend happens during the regular season.
We got Vinny Serrato coming up here very quickly. Were you ever part of a hockey team that played 2 games in one day?
No.
University of I've never heard of this anywhere else. University of Scranton women's basketball. For whatever reason, because of a storm, they had a game in Jersey that was postponed. And they play 2 games a year in Jersey. So when they were playing the other team, the coach called up and said to the team in which the game got postponed, hey, we'll play you at 4:00. And so literally the University of Scranton women's team, Mark, I did both games. They played a game at 4. We packed up. We drove 2 miles across town. We walked in the gym. We played at 7:30. They went 2-0. It was 2 bad teams. Coach said, come on, we'll get 2 wins. Players looked at him going, we're playing twice? Miller and Moulton. Vinny Serrato, talk about the 77 false positives as the former executive. What in the world would he do? What does the league need to do? But also, he pays close attention to what's going on with the Ravens and the team formerly known as the Redskins. There's a lot going on with both franchises. We'll talk to Vinny about it next. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Amazing comebacks that inspired the American story. And before you know it, another great American comeback
In stopping the virus,
will be in the books.
we will have a great victory
Our story continues.
and return to our
Johnny Mac, do I still get paid if the game gets canceled? Dave Meister.
My guess is no.
We love talking to Dave. I'll probably ask somebody here coming up. But Johnny, my guess is no, because I get paid by the game. And since they pay for my travel, that my guess is the network will just go, sorry, man.
We're going to guarantee a freeze.
You know, the salaried employees will get paid, and the
We're not going to go up 50 cents a square foot.
independent contractors here who get paid by the game. If game doesn't happen, I don't see how we get paid. That you'll find at Floormeisters. They now have one. So I don't think so, Johnny Mac. From all ready to be installed.
Yes, and we stock 100 colors of Cortex.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco. Or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
For over 20 years, the Good Feet store has been helping people with foot pain get back to doing what they love without their feet getting in the way. Call 552-FEET or visit us at the Good Feet store in Naples or our newest location in Fort Myers.
Message data rates may apply up to 5 messages a month. TNC and privacy policy found at warbyparker.com/terms.
Need new glasses, but don't feel like leaving your house to shop? No problem. Warby Parker can help you out. Pick 5 pairs of Warby Parker frames, and they'll send them to your house for free. Try them on, take your time, get some opinions, see which ones you like. To get started, just text COMFORT to 64,000. Keep the frames for 5 days and send them back when you're done. It's super easy and it's totally free. If you find a winner, Warby Parker will send you a fresh pair outfitted with your prescription. Their high-quality glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. That's right.
No more cake?
Prescription lenses.
No, I just refilled my coffee.
Gotcha.
Warby Parker, you can
I didn't want to terrorize people that much. Eat cake in front of them. That's not very nice.
With Warby Parker, text COMFORT to 64,000 to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. Text COMFORT to 64,000 to get started for free. That's COMFORT to 64,000.
Has the little blue pill let you down? Our expert medical staff at mymensclinic.com will help. Guys, if you're suffering from ED, we can fix it. Even if you have tried Viagra and other drugs and they've failed you, we will help. Studies have
Let me tell you, when the Ravens get rid of you
treatments
because you're too big of a horse's ass,
other medical conditions.
the Ravens are one of the most forgiving and understanding organizations out there.
We at mymensclinic.com.
You can't play for the Ravens.
Just like you, thousands more nationally. We can make one simple guarantee, and we do. See our life.
Hello, Vinny. Good morning. Mark Miller and David Moulton in Florida. How are you?
Good. Good. How are you guys?
We are doing very well. We're going on in about 30 seconds or so. Thank you very much, as always, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm sitting at the Ravens right now.
Oh,
0125. Again,
they cut anybody yet this morning?
I don't know. Practice starts at 9.
That was a interesting cut yesterday, don't you think?
Wasn't unexpected.
No?
No. Not at all.
License number CCC 1326954. For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. All right, now we're getting somewhere. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live. 29 minutes after the hour. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We go live now to Baltimore. Longtime NFL executive, part of 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. Vinny Serrato, kind enough to join us. He's actually at Ravens practice, which is scheduled to get underway in the next half hour. Vinny, hope all is well with you and your family during these times. It's been a while. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hope all is well with you guys, but yeah, I had to get my temperature checked, and then I'll have to go down and get my credential to go in. But, masks are required everywhere, and it's quite an operation that they have set up here, with all the testing and everything else. So it's pretty cool, and I had Dick Cass, the president from the Ravens, on a couple weeks ago. And once he kind of described what the protocols were going to be, I said, the NFL is playing. I said, they've got it figured out. Them, the NHL, the NBA, they got it figured out.
All right. The only problem that we see is obviously there was the 77 false positive tests. Vinny, from a front office standpoint, I mean, how much our NFL office is freaking out? Because, if this were to happen on a weekend during the season, games I don't think are getting played. What if this happens in 3 weeks when football's going on? What are the front offices talking about? And what would happen if these tests were actually positive, not false positive, Vinny?
Well, I think the thing with the NFL is they've got, a couple weeks to figure this all out. It's like their preseason too with all these labs and stuff. So, they got to figure out what the issues were before the season starts. And you know what? I think they'll have a protocol in place, and if teams can't play, I'm sure that they'll make it up and there'll be adjustments made along the way. But, in today's environment, I mean, things change daily and nothing is a constant. So you just got to go with the flow.
Vinny, if these results, though, come back, do you think there's a number, like a magic number, so to speak, in which if there's an outbreak and if it's more than 4, that, we're probably not going to play tomorrow? Or do you think there's a magic number, or do you think that right now the plan is, no matter what day of the week, if we get a positive result, we're just going to take that player, push him to the side, next man up, and we're going to play?
I think that's why there's a 16-man practice squad, so they want to play, they need to play, and the TVs need them to play. So in the NFL, there's one thing that talks: money talks. So they need to play. Those 32 owners, they're going to want to play, so they'll do everything in their powers to play.
No doubt there. You're in Baltimore. Earl Thomas was released right before we went live with the interview. You said it was to be expected. So just give us a little update, not only on that, but what else you're hearing out of Ravens camp.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is it's not like this is the first incident. He got into it last year with Brandon Williams. And last year, from what I've been told, especially in December, he was kind of a pain in the butt at that time. Late for meetings, missing meetings, skipped the exit interview after the season. So there's been a lot of things. That's why they, cut him conduct detrimental. And for the Ravens to win that, you have to document all that stuff, like if it's continuous, like with the Brandon Williams, all right, you got to send the kid a letter, that this is not, we're putting this in your file. And then anytime he was late, you got to send him a letter, and you got to have a paper trail to be able to win, the arbitration. So it's going to be interesting to see if they had the paper trail, but there's a lot of things that he has done. And when the leadership council, when the players want to get rid of a player, it's time to get rid of the player, and here's what I always said. It was kind of my motto. If the production is bigger than the headache, you deal with the headache. If the headache is bigger than the production, you get rid of the headache.
Earl Thomas, 1 year into what was a 4-year contract, could cost the Ravens as much as $22 million for that year, but they're going to try to get some of that money back. Talking with longtime NFL executive Vinny Serrato from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. Vinny, the Ravens are obviously a Super Bowl contender. They have as deep a roster as maybe anybody in the league, except at safety, ironically. And so by getting rid of Earl Thomas, where do you think they go next? My first thought was, is Eric Reed still available?
Well, Deshaun Elliott, they like him. Young kid, third-year guy. You just got to stay healthy. And the thing with the Ravens, last year they were having communication problems back there. They had Tony Jefferson and, they had Earl Thomas. And, the first 3 games it was, bombs away because there was so many mental errors. And they put in Chuck Clark, who everybody said, who's Chuck Clark? And in my mind, Chuck Clark was the MVP of the defense last year. He's smart and does what he's supposed to do. And the thing with Wink Martindale, Wink puts guys in position to let them do what they do well. They've got Anthony Levine too. They've got Jimmy Smith can go back there and play. So the thing is what's funny is everybody said, oh, Earl Thomas was so great. I watched every game last year. I was at every game last year home, and then I watched the away ones. And I watched the film. I didn't think Earl Thomas was all that good. People think he played great. Why? In a defense that Wink Martindale, what he does is, like I said, lets his players do what they do best. All right, in Seattle, what made Earl Thomas great? Playing center field. All right. In the Ravens, did they have him playing center field? No, they had him blitzing. Why do you have him blitzing? Because he can't run. I didn't think he could run anymore. And last year he was fat. This year, at least he got into shape. He looked physically fit when I saw him the other day. But I still didn't think he ran very well. And he does his own thing all the time. And in football, it's about 11 dudes, and you can't have mental errors. And he wants to do his own thing, and that's what they got into it about. I'm guessing that wasn't the first time that he busted, because Earl liked to do his own thing.
Who gives the Ravens the biggest problem in that division? Are people sleeping on the Steelers? When you look at what's going on there, obviously they missed the playoffs last year, but they didn't have Ben for all the year. Is it a big rebound for them, or are you buying into Cleveland?
I think Cleveland's going to be better because I think they have adults coaching now. And Cleveland gave them a hard time. I mean, Cleveland beat them once last year, because Cleveland could run the ball. They got that physical run, and the Ravens struggled with that last year. And, that's the thing that the Ravens got to show. That's why they went and got Calais Campbell, Patrick Queen, to be able to stop the run. The Ravens struggled when they got behind in games. Yeah, and that is the biggest difference. Somebody asked me, what's the biggest difference between Kansas City and the Ravens? One, when they get behind, they enjoy it. When the other one gets behind, they panic. And the Ravens, don't do well from behind. So that is the difference between those two. So I think Cleveland gave them problems last year, and Pittsburgh, always gives them problems, especially with Big Ben, and their defense is so good. Teams that can really run the football are the ones that gave them problems last year.
Vinny, your former franchise, Washington. First off, at the quarterback situation, I mean, Alex Smith passing a physical, being allowed to come back. I could make the case that Alex Smith today, even having not played for nearly 2 years, is probably a better quarterback than Dwayne Haskins. But don't you have to find out if Haskins is the future or not? I mean, even if Alex Smith is out there looking better in practice, don't you have to play Haskins?
Well, I think what they would probably do is they're going to go with whoever gives them the best chance to win early on. I mean, you owe that to the players, and the players know. And then, it's probably like Kansas City was. Mahomes was probably better, but, Smith was playing good and they were winning games. And just like probably what's going to happen in Miami with Fitzpatrick down there and Tua. So, you have to find, they had 5 games last year, and it doesn't sound like Rivera is convinced, from whatever, watching the film or whatever, that he's totally convinced. There's going to be a competition, and I think if Haskins is the best, then he'll be the guy. If Smith's the best, I think he'll be the guy. I don't think, my guess is, I don't think they've decided yet.
With no preseason, and this year being what it is, from a GM standpoint, how difficult is it going to be to keep, even with the extended practice squad, Vinny, how difficult for these unsigned free agents, undrafted free agents, rather, for late round picks? How much more difficult is it to make a team in 2020 if you're one of these guys with no, essentially preseason? And I know you got practice, but they're not doing scrimmages. They're not doing the things that they were. So how much more difficult is it going to be for some of these guys just to make a squad?
I think it's going to be real difficult. And the biggest thing, I'll tell you a story. Like when I was at the Niners and we drafted T.O. 3rd round, and we're at training camp up in Rockland, California, and we're going up to play our first preseason game. And George Seifert, he came up to me, he says, your boy T.O. said, I think he's probably going to need to be on the practice squad. He's a ways away yet. All right, so we go play the preseason game. He catches 6 balls and has a touchdown. And then George comes to me after the game and says, I guess he's a gamer. So that's the thing is you don't see how guys react in games. You don't know how these rookies are going to react in games. You don't know how, that undrafted free agent who all of a sudden is a star in the preseason game. That's the biggest thing. You're going to miss out on guys and you're going to make mistakes on guys because you don't know how they play in games, which is the most important.
Vinny, listen, there's a big talent difference right now between Baltimore and Washington, but also Baltimore's got established coaches, an established system. Yep. Washington, new coaches, new systems. For this year, I mean, we know that first-year head coaches, or whether they have experience or not, usually they have poor records more than they have good records. Do you think it's going to be even more exacerbated this year? If you're a first-year head coach or first year in that system, I mean, the significant edge that just look in your division, even with Cleveland, as good a roster as the Browns have, how much of an edge does Baltimore and Pittsburgh have over Cleveland and even Cincinnati? It's year 2 with that coach, but it's a new quarterback. I mean, just how big of an advantage is it even in your division?
I would say this. I would say because the Ravens open up with Cleveland. All right. I would say in week 1, it's really not, because Cleveland has the element of surprise. The Ravens don't know what they're going to do offensively or defensively, so the Ravens got to prepare for a lot of stuff, so I think like the early games, I think, it's kind of fair at that point because of the surprise factor. But you're right. They haven't had the ability, to work with their players. I mean, because first time they even saw them face to face was a few weeks ago. So yeah, it's a huge advantage. Like for the Ravens, you got everybody back. You got every coach back. You hit the field running, where the others, you're still learning about the coaches. You're still learning about the players, so it's a huge advantage for, teams like the Ravens.
What's the biggest, obviously, having things canceled, but what's the biggest pain right now for the front offices? Trying to set up travel, trying to keep these extra practice squad. What are the problems that you're hearing that are going on, or is everything running relatively smoothly?
Well, I think it's just an adjustment, with the way you've got to do things, and then bringing guys in for workouts would be the biggest hassle because, you got to bring them in a couple of days early to get tested and do those things. So I think, you can't bring in guys every day, to get workouts and stuff. So that would be a pain. And then being able to scout your opponent for the upcoming game, because you don't have preseason games, and the ability to go evaluate the players, the late draft picks and the undrafted free agents from the other teams, so those are the biggest things personnel wise. It's a pain.
Vinny, thanks so much for making time for us once again. Stay safe, be well. Hopefully we can talk again during the season.
All righty. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Vinny Serrato, longtime NFL executive, part of 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. I believe he does a show. I know it's on the same station. I think he does a show with Jason La Canfora. Vinny Serrato, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. Ravens, who have made the playoffs in Lamar Jackson's first 2 years, but have lost a pair of home playoff games in each season. They have been one and done in the playoffs here with Lamar Jackson. They're the team to beat, though, in that division until proven otherwise. They've won the division back-to-back years here. They're the team to beat.
First time I've heard that take about Cleveland having an advantage in week 1 because the Ravens have no idea what they're going to be doing.
the element of surprise could work early.
Fascinating. I mean, he's onto something I want to kind of keep in my memory bank and see what happens week 1 with the new coaches that are out there, the new coordinators that are out there.
I will say this, Mark. I don't think there are 7 better rosters in the AFC than the Browns. I don't know if the Browns are going to make the playoffs, but 7 teams make the playoffs from each conference now, beginning this year. I don't think there are 7 rosters in the AFC better than Cleveland's. I don't know if they'll put it together, but I mean, honestly, Cleveland's in the AFC East.
Nobody.
Well, Buffalo and Cleveland is comparable.
Well, I got you, but I'll take the quarterback in Cleveland over the quarterback in Buffalo. I will. I think they're very close. I'm going to give the edge Cleveland.
All right. Okay. Let's go to the South. I mean, you go through teams in the South. I mean, roster now. We're not talking.
Tennessee's got as good of roster.
Yeah. Yes, and I would even argue better.
Right.
But obviously, it's roster wise.
Indy's close. I don't know if Houston is anymore between losing guys, getting banged up, and trading your best receiver.
Kansas City, obviously. Okay. You look in their own division. Baltimore's roster's better. I don't know how much better Pittsburgh's roster is than Cleveland's. I got to be honest. I don't know that it is. I mean, I honestly, I look at the Browns roster, and to me, there's like 3 teams in which I go, well, I know they're better. Their team is better. I don't know how many rosters in that conference are better than Cleveland. Now, they haven't put it together in so long. It's tough to, even me, Mark, I'm willing to throw my $20. I throw a lot of 20s around. I'll throw the flyer on that, flyer on that, flyer on that. I mean, you were all on the Browns last year at this time. You're a little gun shy now, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. They couldn't get it done without Roethlisberger playing the majority of the season in Pittsburgh. They don't beat Ben. They just don't. It's like the Bills and the Patriots.
Right. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Buffalo to see Tom Brady leave New England. My goodness. They're still crying tears of joy over that. Brady in 20 years lost on 3 times. 3.
Just for blanks and giggles. Can Cam throw for 4 the first time he plays the Bills?
Just to have the Buffalo front office go, it just doesn't matter who they have. Miller and Moulton.
The good, the bad, and the Cleveland Browns on the other side. Looky there. Dave, a little snarky towards the end of the show. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv. Hey, David, forward me Giro's Good, Bad, and Ugly because I didn't get it again.
You're going to see a big name opt out, and that would mean Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields at Ohio State. If you've already cemented your
There
status,
is something going on with your email.
Go blank.
Are you going to risk this? The next few weeks are going to be interesting as players decide on their future, and teams try to get ready for a very, very unusual season.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
The new $3 hotcake breakfast sandwich from Hardee's knows just how you like it. Your sausage sizzling and your eggs.
Did you get it?
A full breakfast nestled between 2 sweet hotcakes. At only $3, the new hotcake breakfast sandwich is almost too good to be true. Wake up, you're happy with the new hotcake breakfast sandwich. Part of the 2, 3 more breakfast menu at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Offer valid for a limited time during regular breakfast hours at participating Hardee's restaurants. Tax not included. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with charbroiled beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos.
Man. Golly.
Western Bacon Cheeseburger at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor. The Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Do the math.
Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning weekly service plans. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
Hey, check this out, Southwest Florida. You know that sweet trade-in deal we've been doing here at Naples Nissan? Well, it just got sweeter. If your trade-in is less than 8 years old with less than 80,000 miles on it, guess what? Naples Nissan is going to give you the original base MSRP for it. Wait, what? Yeah. So whatever that Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Nissan, Honda was worth 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago is exactly what it'll be worth now.
That is
Only
great.
Naples Nissan.
John Oliver ripped Danbury, Connecticut in the show last week. The city named their local sewage treatment plant after John Oliver. Now that's funny.
Bluetooth, no Bluetooth. Backup camera, no backup camera. Come on, it's a no-brainer, folks. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details or come see us on Pine Ridge Road and drive home in that brand new Nissan today. Offers on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
103.3 Cape Coral. We are Force.
Message and data rates may apply up to 5 messages a month. TNC and privacy policy found at warbyparker.com/terms.
Need new glasses, but don't feel like leaving your house to shop? No problem. Warby Parker can help you out. Pick 5 pairs of Warby Parker frames, and they'll send them to your house for free. Try them on, take your time, get some opinions, see which ones you like. To get started, just text COMFORT to 64,000. Keep the frames for 5 days and send them back when you're done. It's super easy, and it's totally free. If you find a winner, Warby Parker will send you a fresh pair outfitted with your prescription. Their high-quality glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. That's right, including the prescription lenses. There's no need to travel to an optical store. With Warby Parker, you can shop for glasses anytime, anywhere. Try 5 frames for free today with Warby Parker. Text COMFORT to 64,000 to pick your 5 frames to try on at home for free. Text COMFORT to 64,000 to get started for free. That's COMFORT to 64,000.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
From the best headlines to the worst.
It's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
Prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
For the good, we go to Oregon, where a group was waiting at the On Point Credit Union in Hillsborough. And a guy came in his Jag and was irritated because there was people blocking the ATM. But it turns out that those gathered were waiting for emergency funding. And he just asked, "You guys really need help?" Then he broke out a stack of 100s and started passing them out down the line. He didn't say a thing. He just drove off. Witnesses say the man handed out $10,000 and left.
Nice.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a good.
That's a really good. Turns from there. For the bad, we go to New York, where Kurt Mathis says he was out of town when a large safe was found sitting in one of the fields on his farm. Word spread quickly, and deputies had to disperse a crowd that showed up with sledgehammers trying to open it. The safe, which weighs around 600 pounds, had to be transported by heavy equipment, now sits in one of his barns, and nobody knows where it came from. But whoever left it left a note saying whoever can open it can keep what's inside. As far as he's concerned, it's just some wise guys or kids that did it. He's now the talk of the town, but he hasn't opened it. His personal feeling, he said, is leave it a mystery. If you open it, the show's over. In these times with the virus and politics, it might just give people a chance to set their problems or troubles aside and have a lot of fun talking about it. Yeah, I'd have that safe open immediately. Couldn't do it fast enough. For the ugly, we traveled to New Hampshire where Russell Anderson just got out of prison. And he woke up and found bushes, some tools, and a note that said, "Welcome home and happy planting." More things appeared in his driveway, lawn chairs and tables. But according to police, they didn't just show up. Anderson had stolen all the items and tried to just tell police that everything just showed up in my driveway and I don't know how it got here.
Right.
He'll soon be back in jail. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, August the 24th. This is 2020.
Mark, we got playoff basketball and playoff hockey today. The hockey is all tonight. Begins at 7 o'clock, game 1 of the Islanders-Flyers series. And then game 2 of the Dallas-Colorado series to follow at a little before 10 o'clock. Dallas won game 1 of that series, 5-3. So game 2 of Dallas and Colorado, game 1 of the Islanders and Flyers. Who do you like in that series, by the way?
Well, I still like Philadelphia. I like the way they've been playing in the bubble. They've got a goaltender. It will be feisty, but I'm going to take Philly in 6.
I'll take the Islanders in 7. I think Philly's better. I just don't know if they're ready to win yet. They won their first playoff series against Montreal. It's their first series in 8 years. NBA playoffs tonight, Mark. Actually, they begin at 1:30 this afternoon with Orlando and Milwaukee, game 4. 4 o'clock, Houston OKC, game 4. Heat try to sweep the Pacers at 6:30. Lakers try to go up 3-1 on Portland at 9.
So hopefully we can get a Portland win.
Make that 2-2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dallas doing their part. They're 2-2 with the Clippers.
Exactly. I mean, at least give us a little drama in round 1 if we can get it.
It's bad enough they're playing best of 7 instead of best of 5, right?
David, we need programming. We need programming. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. And that's, of course, why they gave us an 8 and 10:45 hockey game last night.
Miller and Moulton. The Dan Patrick Show is next. Thanks so much for being with us. Pat Kerwin on the show tomorrow here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
We are Fox Sports. You should be driving a Kia from Galliana. Galliana Kia.
Thanks, Jiro.
Thank you, Jiro.
Okay. When Galliana Kia in Fort Myers can sell you a new car for less. 2020 Kia Forte LXS lease, just $49 per month. That's right, a new car for just $49 per month. 2020 Kia Rio, just $13,990. Yes, $13,990.
I will say this, quick fan.
Lenders against anyone approved.
Nebraska, we didn't get into it today. We will tomorrow. Iowa, dumping 4 sports.
Sorry, I had my headsets off. What's that?
No. Just comments in the chat room there. Nebraska with what they're doing. Iowa dumped 4 sports over the weekend. I mean,
open every day, including Sunday.
Listen, everyone involved in colleges right now, never mind college athletics, is showing their true colors. The academic community can't ever say another word about the athletic departments ever again. Okay? We all know why they're playing football. Money. They haven't sugarcoated it, by the way. They flat out said, we got to play or else we're going to lose $100 million. All right? But what they're doing on the academic side, this bait and switch, bring them on campus just long enough, get their money, send them home.
It's criminal.
I mean, it's $500 million, by the way, is what they're doing. And they're not being open about it. Okay? These North Carolina reporters are going to win a Pulitzer with what they're about to do, exposing the North Carolina school system, in which they've... Listen, I don't know why every reporter doesn't do this, but you paying attention to what they're doing in Carolina?
No.
A reporter back in April had a hunch that they were going to do this in North Carolina and started requesting FOIs going back to April. Has all the emails talking about the bait and switch that they're doing, bringing kids on campus, getting their money, sending them home.
Okay.
Gonna crush them.
Yeah.
Going to crush them.
School paper you're talking about too, right?
I don't know if it's a school paper.
Okay, because I'm actually reading an article that came out in the Daily Tar Heel. I Googled that really quickly. And this Elizabeth Moore, this is the first article in a series unpacking these documents and insights they offer on the fall reopening plans.
Okay, then I guess it is the student, because I knew it was a female reporter who had a hunch.
Elizabeth Moore, and she goes back to an email from May 27th. I think we will assume we will see COVID in all caps this fall. Yeah?
Yeah, had a hunch. And I love the fact, by the way, that it's the school newspaper. It's the same one that had clusterfuck in the headline.
Right. That's true.
Right. They're going to get sued because there are going to be people who are going to sue them looking for their money back.
Hey, if you think about it, in all seriousness here, David, these are the type of papers left that can do something like that because they actually have a budget. And the kids aren't getting paid anything, or what they're getting paid is trivial. But you know what I mean? Like the school paper, it's part of the school. There's a budget. They're not cutting them out. Where the news press and all these other papers, shit, they don't have reporters to do anything.
Well, Mark, then again, you could argue that literally the university could walk in and say, we're shutting you down.
Oh, good luck with that.
Well, I mean, it'd be bad press, but they could shut them down.
Yep, they could.
I mean, it's kind of like what's going on in Pittsburgh now. Is it the Post-Gazette, in which basically they only want one side being covered? Okay, they have outlawed. There's like nothing in the paper about Black Lives Matter. Okay, they will not let minority reporters cover certain stories because they've all but said because of the color of your skin you're biased. Okay, I mean the union is like suing the paper over what's going on in Pittsburgh. But I love the fact that this student newspaper is going to win an effing Pulitzer. Tell you what, that student reporter can name her fucking job.
You got that right.
Do you want to work? Which Times or Post do you want to work for?
All right, I'm taking us off at Twitch here. Goodbye, everybody.